Just before this episode starts, if you enjoy the Legit podcast, we produce 4 exclusive bonus episodes per month for our private members club on patreon.com. For the price of £1 a week, that's just £4 a month, the price of a beer or a fancy coffee. We produce these bonus episodes that have special guests on, various topics, and there's also merchandise offers and various bonuses you can have, competitions, all kinds. Get over there, support us, support the podcast by giving just £1 a week. Link is below.
This episode of the podcast is kindly sponsored by Feel Supreme. Feel Supreme have been sponsoring the podcast for a number of weeks now. They're an incredible company. They've got the most diverse range of supplements. I've got some here, the CBD, which I've been taking, which is brilliant. The mushroom extract as well, which I've been taking once a day. They've got vitamin D3, vitamin C, a huge range of different health supplements, and you can get 10% off if you go to the code below, go to the link below, which is feelsupreme.co.uk/legit, and you get 10% off by clicking through and going through their website through that link below. Please support them. They've been a huge support of the podcast. They've got the most incredible products that I take daily, myself and Andy take daily as well. So anything you can do to support them ultimately supports us. Everything CBD, vitamin D3, vitamin C, which is obviously vitamin D3 massive at the moment, and vitamin C obviously really important for immune support. So go to the link below, click through, and you'll get 10% off your order. Rightio, it's the Legit podcast with myself, Tom Wickstead.
It's me, Andy Grant, and this week we've got artist John Charles.
Yes,
Thanks
for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Yeah, really appreciate it.
Mate, I've been look, we've got this as proof of how good anyone can see that belter.
Quality.
Mate, your
Thanks
website
for that as well, mate. Yes.
is incredible. Mate, your website is absolutely unbelievable. Some of the art, mate, it's just unbelievable. I'll probably get into the art more and more, but just on that alone, mate, just want to say, mate, it's unbelievable.
Thank you. Been working hard on it, to be honest. It's like some people think it's happened like an overnight sensation kind of thing, because I have all of a sudden like got a lot more like in the limelight and publicity wise, but I've been grafting at this for 10 years. It's not like I started selling paintings for 30 quid.
Yeah.
Now they can go for over 2,000. So
Jesus.
it's like but I have worked my ass off to get to that point. It's not like I've just went like I'm charging that from that.
Tom says that all the time.
$2,000 and then
What's the saying that you say overnight? 10 year
it takes 20 years to become an overnight success. Yeah, it's so true, that, isn't it? You know?
It's mad because people do think like, wow, but no, I've worked hard for it.
I've had it with my speaker, mate. I was lucky enough to work with Nike, and they flew me over to China a couple of years, about 18 months ago, and people were just like, oh, you fucking jammy bastard, how'd you get on there? I was like, mate, I was talking for free in a church with 3 old women, and I think 2 of them might have been dead or asleep. No one was asked then.
Yeah.
And 10 years later they see you on a flight, and they're like, fucking hell, you jammy. But it's a lot of hard work that no one sees, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Like my first art studio was my living room. Me and my missus, we moved to Widnes for a bit, and it was a coffee table. I had like a little tiny easel that you, about 30 quid, which you could fit an A3 size canvas on it. And that's what I used to paint on in my living room, just sitting there watching the telly. And they were the paintings that I was selling for like 30 quid each time.
Of just anything.
It started off, there was one of my mates from Kirby, Danielle. She asked, in fact, I'd done a painting. What did I do a painting of? It was a Disney, I think it was just a Mickey Mouse, I think it was. And she messaged me. I put it on Facebook just for like, as you do. You didn't, it's not on Facebook, you didn't do it, did you? So I put it on, and then she messaged me and said, can I buy that? And I was like, what? She was like, I'll buy it. And I went, how much? She was like, 30 quid. I was like, sold. So then my head straight away, boomf, business, let's make some money here. And I started painting like Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, Dumbo, all different Disney characters. And they just started selling. But that was just from a little tiny studio, like not a studio, it was my living room. That's all it was.
Do you know Jay Hutton off Tattoo Fixers?
No.
No, it doesn't really. So he and I think you probably might have gone down the same route. So he used to do drawings of like Tyson, of big, and tag them on Facebook, Instagram, and things like that. And then it started to get some traction from there, which I can imagine. Like I've seen you do with the guy from Hot Water, Paul
Smith, Adam Rowe,
yeah, all of them. Like, so just Is that one of the ways you think that you've grown the artwork, or is it just that?
Yeah, I'm not like it's all about your profile, isn't it? You need to build your profile and stuff like that. So, like, I was doing all my smaller paintings and stuff. Like, my style has changed like ridiculous over the years. So I started off just doing your basic Disney paintings and stuff, and then I started having a little go pop art, which it's almost like painting by numbers. I think when you do pop art. Sorry for any artists doing pop art.
What is pop art then?
It's like if you got.
Oh, yeah, I'll get it. Oh yeah.
It's
because I actually don't know what pop art is either. So I've just yes, that's sort of like Marilyn Monroe,
the Andy Warhol stuff. That's obviously a bit more special, but it's like there's about 3 colours to the painting, and they're not hard to do. But I was doing them, and they were selling. But then I found I was just copying other people's styles for quite some time. I don't know if I'm going to move on too fast here, and I don't want to get emotional now either. But one of my mates who passed away about, I think, 7 years ago now, before he passed away, he said to me, because he loved my artwork anyway, like when we were on the doors, I used to do like little doodles on napkins and stuff like that. And he said, get in touch with one of my mates, Danny O'Connor. He said, he's an artist, he works from his home now, like that's all he does, he's just a full-time artist. And I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. Anyway, Dave passed away, and I thought, fuck it, he asked me to do something, I've got to do what he asked me to do. So I just sent this artist a message, and if you get him on Instagram or anything, his work is on another level, he's incredible. And he just messaged back and said, come round to the house and paint with me one day. I was like, wow, fuck off. So my arse went then, I thought, right, I'll go round. So I went round with a packet of digestive biscuits to try and break the ice. And he just started on this painting. And he went, right, I'll go make us a drink, have a little go on that. And I'm thinking, nah, I'm not painting on your painting. Like, no way. So he come back up, and I'd done nothing on it. I was too scared to paint on it. And anyway, he just got like the brush and just put this big slab of paint through the middle of the painting. I was like, what are you doing? You just fucked it. And he was like, no. He said, just work with it now. So anyway, on the back of painting with him for that day, I went home, and I got like a release, like I just opened up, so I wasn't scared of my paintings anymore. So I'd experiment a little bit more, and I might do a painting which looks decent, and then I might have just threw like a bit of paint through it and then ruined it, but then worked with it, and by working with it, it become an even better painting.
Something else, yeah.
Yeah, and that's how it started evolving my work. And then one of my mates, Charlene from Ireland, she messaged me once. She sent me this digital painting that some fella done, but he'd done a digital painting with a palette knife, and she said, you could do something like that. And then that's where, like, you've seen my work, everything's done with a palette knife. So I'd use a brush for the beginning stages, and then I'd jump on with a palette knife after it. So I thought, right, I'll have a go with a palette knife painting here. And that's when I started painting much bigger, so like 35 inches. Started to do palette knife paintings. People started asking for them then, and that's when the prices started going up. And then ever since that palette knife, I've just evolved with my style, and now I think most people would say, they see one of my painting that I've done, they know instantly that it's mine.
That it's yours, yeah.
Yeah, but that took me. So I've been painting for 10 years, nearly 10 years now. I'd say it's only the last 4 or 5 years where I started the palette knife work, and then the last 2 years is where I've really stamped like my style on stuff, so people know instantly what it is then.
So those last 2 years have really kicked off then as such, yeah?
Yeah. Like there was one, I don't know if you've seen Mamadou Sakho when he played for Liverpool. So there's a lad who used to work on the doors with, Abdullah. He knows every footballer in Liverpool or Everton or United. He's always involved with them. And I'd just done a painting of Sakho, and he was like, I'll get that to him. And I was like, all right, sounds. Anyway, he messaged and he said, do you want to come round to his? I was like, you messing? So anyway, he took me and my daughter round to Sakho's house.
That's cool.
This in Formby, was it?
Yeah, we just bounced, this big lecky gates opens, we bounced in. There he is in his little jockeys. My God, I don't even know if I can say this on here, but he had grey jockeys on.
Yeah.
You can just hear
He's packing.
as he's walking. I was like, fucking hell. But then like, he was just buzzing with the painting. He was absolutely made up with it. And what I was gutted about is he went in the back garden to take a photograph of it, and he leaned it against a chair, and a chair pierced a hole in it. He obviously wasn't asked. I was devastated, but I was like, I'm in his house, I'm not bothered. So I was sound anyway. And we took a couple of photos, and I don't even know how, but the Echo ended up doing a big story on it then. But what Sacco done after that was he got the painting, and he's got personalised shin pads. So on one shin pad he had the painting that I done, and his other shin pads was a picture of his wife and his daughter.
That's cool, isn't
and I was
it?
like, shit,
that's cool, that, man.
So that kind of like kick-started things a little bit for us with like I suppose the celebrity side of the thing, of the art world. And then obviously I twigged, and I was like, right, well, that blew up a little bit with him.
This is the avenue I need to go down
like,
to raise the profile.
That's all it is. It's raising profile, and like a lot of the time, like we give paintings away for free at the beginning. My daughter put a stop to that though recently. I'll tell you in a minute why. And we done it for a few people. Some of them were really nice about it, like, and they'd go out the way and they'd stick it on their Instagram and do stories for you and have a photograph. And for me, it was always about getting my daughter to meet all these people that she might not get to meet. So when she's older, she's like, looks back at all these people that she's met just through my artwork. So it's like, it's just making like a boss little life for her.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Most of them were sound. One player, I won't name him, but plays for Man City now. He didn't even put nothing on a story or anything, and I was wounded. He didn't like, and some girl messaged me a while back saying that she's been in his house doing a mural on his wall, and I've seen this painting and knew it was yours. So it's up in his house.
So it's up in his house,
It's
yeah.
up in his house, yeah.
Because you see on Twitter, I see loads of, especially because I follow a lot with Liverpool, is, you know, Van Dijk, you know, people are doing portraits, aren't they, and artwork on Twitter, and it seems sometimes it fucking blows up, doesn't it, on Twitter?
It does, yeah.
Big
I
style.
hate Twitter, me. Twitter's a horrible platform. I can't stand it.
Even for sharing your artwork and things like that, because I thought,
People are so nasty on Twitter.
about your art, yeah.
Not just about my artwork.
Just in general, I think. Isn't it?
I don't think I've ever had a bad thing said. Well, no, I have recently. Actually, anyone who follows Adam Rowe on Twitter, they're just brutal anyway. They'll just rip the arse out of you just for the sake of it. But just people in general on Twitter are just nasty. So I don't really. I'll put something on it and then I probably won't go back on really to read the comments or anything. Or it's just a horrible platform. But back onto like the people, like the celebrities and stuff, we started getting in touch with a couple of people. And they were made up with it, and people like they were putting it on the profile. So I think Anthony Fowler, he didn't even put it on his. I don't think he put a post on for us either. He might have put it on a story. That was about it. But like I'm massive into the strongman community. I loved like the sport of strongman. Eddie Hall was probably the big one for us.
Mate, I met him once, you know, at when Liverpool had the BBC Sports Personality of the Year Awards.
Yeah.
I'm a bit like, I'm not into the strong, but I love Eddie Hall. And I met him, mate. Is fucking everything about him, mate, is just...
He's boss, isn't he?
Yeah.
Well, I just done a painting, and I thought, I'll message him, see what happens. And he had like a PR lad who was doing his inbox for him at that point, and he was like, yeah, come down. So I drove down to Stoke with the painting. And this was when my style was still evolving a little bit. And, you know, he took the painting, he did a photo with us, started following me on Instagram then. And then I said to him, I'll do another one of you next year. And he went, well, tell you what, wait until I've done the 500 kilo deadlift, because I'm going to do it, then do another one. And I was like, deal. So we pulled the deadlift, done the painting, went back down, got another photo with him. And we started becoming quite matey
amazing.
then after that. Then he turned around and asked me to do, when he won he said to me, the next one's when I win Worlds. And whenever he says he's going to do something, nine times out of 10 he does it. And then he won the Worlds. So we've done a painting for him of where he's pointing up to the sky for his nan. So we've done that. Then he commissioned me to do a painting of when he was over in America, and he'd done a deadlift with Arnold Schwarzenegger cheering him on. And that was when he got the world records, I think the 462. So there's a picture of him deadlifting and Arnie stood next to him screaming. So we've done that painting.
That's cool, isn't it? Is that on your Instagram? Yeah. Yeah, it will be. Yeah.
But then he took that to America. He's got a documentary, hasn't he? So he's got Eddie Hall on Netflix, I think part one, and then he's got another one coming out. So he took the second one over to America, and Arnie signs it, and there's part of the documentary going to be where Arnie signs the painting and that.
It?
I'm like, shit. But this just keeps going on and on and on then. So then there's another strong man who we loved, Lawrence Charley, and we've become like, we ended up going to his wedding and everything now. We just, through the art, we become mates with them. And I've done a painting of him, we met him, and we've become friends with the family. And then there's a few other strong men along the lines that I've done paintings of. So most of these have been for free. And if anything, it's free, but it's like, it's not, because I'm getting to like a proper little fanboy when I see them. And most of my mates all think, well, I was a bigger size than I am now, so I'm only about 50 and a half stone now. Back then I was much bigger. I was like 19 and a half. And my mate's like, oh, you're big. But then when I stood next to them, I looked like about 10-year-old boy.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, mate. I mean, you're a lot bigger than me, but when I met that Eddie Hall and I shook his hand, mate, his hand was like 3 times the size of mine anyway.
Mad,
And he was just fucking, but such a nice guy. I mean, I only chat to him for a minute, but just really nice guy come across like.
Yeah, he is. Like before, and I'll be honest, and even if he listens to this, I'm not asked. Like, I didn't really like him before he won Worlds, but I understand now why I didn't like him, because he was very like, he wasn't into like having a big conversation with you or anything. He was just a little bit to the point, and then he was off. But I know now that he was focused on his goal, and you can't let anybody in when you're trying to get to where you want to be. He was just that focused.
You have got to be selfish, haven't you, when you're like that?
So like, I'm coming to his gym where he's training to get a photograph and everything, but that's where he's
his
gone
workplace.
to. Yeah. So I understand. I was being probably immature back then and selfish. So I was like a little bit like, oh, he's a bad to him. But do you know what? We've been out for meals with him and stuff like that. We've met his wife and his kids. And he's just he's a big, gentle giant. And then when we were in Dubai with him, mate, it was just the most like bizarre. Like, we were sitting in the Cheesecake Factory, just sitting there having a meal with him, and everybody's coming out taking photos and shit.
Can he eat? He must fucking put it away, the food.
He can, right, but he pissed me off because when we were ordering our food, he ordered sweet potato fries, and I was like, I'm getting normal fries here. And he's like, sweet potato, and I was like, well, all right, I'll have some sweet potato fries as well. It was proper gutted. But like, now he's boxing, isn't he?
Yeah, he's taking on
Hathor, the mountain out of Game of Thrones. That's his next big
Is he? Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah,
so that's the heaviest boxing match in history.
of course. Yeah, sorry.
So a few people are slagging it off like, oh, it's a fucking joke for boxing, but it's bringing a whole new audience from strongman over to boxing to watch boxing, and the two of them hate each other.
Yes,
There's genuine haters in there, and like, somebody that size, you're gonna go a kip, aren't you?
Fucking
It's gonna be nasty.
I'd definitely watch that.
But like, I'm watching them both on the pads and stuff, and Eddie looks really good. And then I seen Thor sparring the other day, and he looked awful. I mean, I can't spar. I'd just be throwing haymakers and pouring people off like that. And that's what he was doing. But like, I'm not going to Vegas to fight, am I? That's where they're fighting. But then on the back of that, I've now been commissioned by Core Sport to do 2 official paintings for the event in Vegas as well. Now.
Really, yeah?
That's quite cool.
So will you go to Vegas then?
Yeah, front row. What has he said to? I said to them when we were arranging, that was like front row seats, and they were like, yes.
How mad's that? Just from starting, was it 9 years ago?
Yeah.
And then front row in Vegas. That's pretty.
It's bizarre.
Cool,
I mean, like,
isn't it?
if anybody's listening now, like, they might just be thinking, oh, yeah, that sounds boss what I've done, but like, to get where I got to, I went through probably 10 years of hell before it, and then the struggle, even just starting in the art world, is a nasty ass place. It's hard work, it's snobbish as fuck. Like,
yeah, it can come across, I imagine, like that, like very like, because you've got, when you think of the art world, you think of very, like art galleries where they have a night and everyone's having wine and, aristocrat sort of like type of sort of people. Do you know what I mean?
Stuck up gobshites. I don't like it. Like, I don't like that people.
Tom's been around. Stuck up gobshites.
Do you know, like the type who stand there with a glass of red wine and swilling it round and go like, well, I feel like I can see. And I'm like, no, you can't. That's a portrait there. You're not reading any more into that as far as I'm concerned. It's like abstract work and all that. I just don't like it. And I had a solo exhibition May last year in St. Helens World of Glass, and I just rocked up in a pair of shorts and my sliders and my t-shirt, and because I don't drink, and I knew that one of the things is they have like a private bar there so people can buy drinks and stuff, which I'm sound with. I might not drink, but I don't judge people for drinking. But what I arranged was this boss little coffee van to be sat outside the entrance doing all different types of coffee, different types of teas, little cakes and biscuits and stuff. And I was like, that's what an exhibition for me is about. I don't want to see people bouncing around with wet red wine and all that being snobbish. I wanted it to be totally different. We had 250 people turn up for my exhibition, or more than that. And the people who run it said, like, that's the biggest attendance they've had in 20 years. But the best part of was the variation of people who turned up. So I had lads turning up I don't know if you know David Lander. He's about 7 foot tall. He's just like a giant Viking. And he turns up, and he was there from start to finish, just literally getting took in by all the paintings. I had other lads turning up out of the gym, just giant men. Then I had little old women, like 80-year-old women. It was just
of different range,
every different aspect of like people you could imagine turned up for the event. That's what I prefer. I'm not into all this art snobbery at all. I don't believe in it.
It's great how you're doing what you've done, what you're saying about what Eddie's doing with the boxing. It's like you're bringing different people to art. I mean, like, I'm guessing some of your mates would never have bothered going to an art, screening before.
Yeah, I had. It's on me for. I won't. Actually, I won't play it because it's a voice memo off somebody. Somebody bought a painting off me yesterday. It's a big 40 by 40 inch painting of the Beatles, and so it's not a cheap painting. Like, to part with that amount of money, I think you've got to believe in somebody to do that. But I just assumed he must be like a big art collector anyway. And the voice memo he sent me last night, it had me in tears. I was like, whoa, that's amazing. It's the first piece of art he's ever bought. He said, I'm not into art. He come across me work. I can't remember where it was that he come across it. And he started following it. And he said, I just went through your Instagram. And he was like, I need to get something off him. So this is somebody who's never ever been into art before. And I get that quite a lot. So some fella the other week bought an abstract piece off me, and he actually messaged me and said, this isn't my kind of thing, this isn't my cup of tea, this, but there's something about it and I just need it. I was like, but you've just bought it. But then when he got it, he was like, mate, this is amazing. And honestly, there's loads of people who have bought art off me who said, I'm not into art, but I am now.
Do you think that's because of the art? Not only that it's good, but also because of you, the person, your story, where you've come from, your personality?
I hope so. I hope people, maybe. I don't want to say because then I sound like a tit, don't I? Like,
yeah, but I can imagine
because of me.
I can imagine that it probably is though. If there's a story there, isn't there?
Yeah.
And obviously we'll talk about that in a bit, but there is a story to your background, and then it's not just.
I'm not your typical artist, and I always say this. I never want to be your typical artist. I never went to art school. I've never done any fine art degrees or anything like that. I done art as a kid, and when I was in my last year of primary school, my teacher then, who was Miss Lomax, she's now Miss Willis, who I still speak to this day. She's over in Shanghai at the minute, and she's invited me over there because she thinks I could paint loads of stuff while I'm over there. So I'm still in touch with her. She made art for me at the age of 10. She made it like fun and interesting. Then I went to seniors, and that's when it starts getting a little bit more like structured, and I don't like people telling me what to do. That's why I now work for myself, and I didn't do very well at the civil service because of that. So when I went to seniors, that's all I done was art. So as soon as I heard that you could pull out a religious education, you could pull out your language, I dropped French and I dropped RE. And they were like, so what do you want to do? And I said, well, I'll just do art. So I'd just sit outside the art class and just paint on my own when everybody else was doing the other lessons. So I'd get a lot more art classes, but the teacher wouldn't be telling me, do this, do this, do this anymore. But like, just crack on, just paint.
Just do what you want.
Yeah. And I was seemed to do all right. And I got an A in my GCSE art, and I remember seeing my art teacher, and he was disappointed because I didn't get an A star. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. Maybe if you'd have told that lad off who poured glue all over my coursework. Still remember you.
But you never had any like private lessons or nothing then? It was just all...
No. So I left school at 15. The next day, I was working in a bar in Wembley Stadium. Totally illegal, obviously. I was like a bar lad. So one of my mates who was working for like an agency, and he went, do you want some work? I was like, yeah, go ahead. So literally the day after school, and when I started that, that's when things went downhill.
Really, yeah?
Yes, because you're working behind the bar at the age of 15, and pour a pint for them, have a pint for yourself. And that's when things started getting, I could drink a little bit then.
I was going to say, growing up in Liverpool then, so Kirby you're from, isn't it?
Yeah.
What was the growing up, just like normal one of the lads, like drinking in parks and things like that? And
yeah, it's like some people often say, somebody I was working with recently always used to say, there must be more to it, that you just don't know why you turn to drinking drugs. I was just a tit and I made the wrong choice, that was it. Like, my mum and dad are amazing. Like, I've seen my dad drunk once in his life, and he looked an absolute tit for it. And I thought, I don't want to end up like that. And I mean, one time, and my dad's 67 now, and I've only ever seen him drunk once. I've never seen my mum drunk. They both never smoked. Never touched drugs. You know, when I was a kid, I wasn't like a spoiled kid, but I didn't want for it. No, like if I ever wanted something, I kind of got it, but not always like the best up there. But I was always looked after. We come from a happy home. My mum still looks after me auntie who's just mentally and physically disabled. So I come from like that type of background where we look after each other. So I never had a bad upbringing or anything. Obviously, when I was like, say 12, 13, you get your little bottle of Edge Vale, wouldn't you? And you'd neck half of that, and then you'd be absolutely bladdered and stuff, but you'd always sobered up before you went home. So you wasn't really that drunk, was you? But like, yeah, I think I used to do that type of thing, going out the park, having a little bevy with your mates, but nothing excessive.
Yeah.
I wasn't like an alcoholic or anything back then when I was a kid. I enjoyed it.
Something to put, like, I suppose it's somewhere to put your energy that isn't necessarily the best place to put your energy, is it, when you're that age, you know, at 15?
We used to have a lot of fun, like when we were kids growing up and stuff. So yeah, I can't look back and say it was anything to do with back then.
Because that is sometimes what people do, isn't it? It's like, I always think it's people who've had really troubled upbringings, or it's people who've had everything, like grew up with a silver spoon, but like, you know, grew up in mansions and this and that, and then they've gone to drugs. It's because they've had it always seems to be one or the other. But
yeah, those two fringes of like,
and I feel like I'm bang in the middle. Like, I remember lads in my school and seniors saying that they had a line at the weekend, and I was, whoa, that's bad, that, you fucking divvies, why are you doing that? Then I was 16 when I had my first stripe.
It's young, that, isn't it? 16,
that is young now.
Fucking hell.
I can remember it to this day. I was telling my daughter, she's 10, she knows everything about my past. She knows all about the drink and drugs. Like, I've never hid it from her, because I thought, you know, these articles and stuff out there, I wouldn't want her to have to read about it. And then be like, fucking hell, Dad, so you were on the bench, you weren't you? But we have a laugh about it now when I talk about it with her. And the other day I was telling her about the first day that I had a line. I was an engineer. So after I left school at 15, I started working in bars, and I decided to do like an engineering course. So you go, you get training, and then they put you on a placement. So I got put on a placement then, and I was there for a year, and I went out with all the lads. And I'm 16, they're all grown men. So they could drink, and they were all, obviously, I didn't even know what snorting really was properly back then. And I remember being in the toilet having a burst, bladdered, and one of the lads just had a key of limo, and he just went, yeah, I'll have that. And I just snorted it, and I remember being like, whoa, this is boss, this, I love you, you're my favourite person ever. And everybody I spoke
We're going on holiday.
I loved them all. Oh, you want to come down to mine? You want to meet me mum and dad? And that was what I was just like, this is boss, this. But that was just off one little stripe, that. And I remember the next 2 days, it was like the roughest 2 days of my life. I was like, oh my God, I'm never doing that again. Then it got to the Friday, and everyone's out for a bevy, and I'm like, hey, can you get some of that stuff for us again? So I got a 20 bag. It lasted me all night, the 20 bag, like proper, like, all night. Within, I'd say, a few months, I was like, nah, let's just have three 20 bags of a Friday.
Every weekend?
Yeah, every Friday or Saturday, I just 3, that's it, nothing. And I was functioning, I was fine. And then I got a job then in the civil service. At the 8, it must have been about just after like 17ish, I think it must have been. And there was a big culture there. At the end of every month you went out, everybody went out, and you all went to the pub. But I had this little thing as well, I've skipped past it a little bit, where when I used to drink, I'd black out quite a lot, but I'd wake up with either a black eye or cut knuckles, so I'd often fight. And back then I couldn't really fight very well either, so I don't know, but I'd often get into scraps with people for nothing, and it was just when I was bladdered, before drugs really set in. But then when I started snorting, I knew what I was up to, and I kind of didn't fight anymore, and I wasn't getting into trouble. So in my head I'm like, so I could go out now, bevy all night. If I have a line, I won't fight anymore, and I won't get into trouble. I don't know if that was just an excuse, but I did do it.
Justifying it to yourself.
Yeah, and it kept me out. Well, it didn't keep me out of trouble completely, because I still got in trouble, but it started getting a grip of me. And I remember being in work, and we had these little cardboard calendars, just like a little fold over one. And I must have been about 18 then. So for me to be thinking at that age, something's not right here, it obviously wasn't right. And what I'd done was, I used to mark every day orange where it snorted. And I remember getting to the end of the year, looking at it and like, whoa, it's like spot where there's no orange. It was already kicking off quite a bit.
Jesus.
That's so interesting to do that, so you can look back and actually you can see your problem there on a piece of paper.
But that was like, I must have been about 18 then. I didn't stop snorting until I was 27. So it's like, I knew it was a problem, but I put it to the back of my head. But it wasn't a problem where it was causing me any financial difficulties. I didn't have a wife, I didn't have a kid, I didn't have a house. My whole wage was mine, so I only had to pay for my car. And that was a little shitter at that time anyway, so that wasn't, I don't even know if I had to pay for that. My mum and dad might have bought me that. So I had not a lot of money, but
Disposable income, yeah.
It wasn't causing me any problems back then.
Isn't it mad, just within 2 years, like you say, 2 or 3 years, from going from having a little bevy in the park to then fucking 320 bags on the ale every Friday, Saturday or whatever, and then again, that's just the norm then.
Yeah, I mean, like, the 320 bag thing, that didn't last long either. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but like, it was easily, I could get like 10, 20, just little 20 bags. That'll do me for the night, that then. And that was still before I was probably 20. I could still sit there nailing that. But most people would be like, that's not that much limo. But it still carried on and on and on. And
was it a case where your surroundings, your mates kind of doing it at the time as well, are they? Is it a kind of keeping up the Joneses type thing? I want to look good in front of them, is it? Or?
It was more, back when I was younger, it was more just, I loved the party and I loved being the centre of attention. Put me in a room now and I'll just crumble. Like, I'll sweat and I'll be like, whoa, feel awful. I'm getting a bit better at it now over the past couple of years, but for a while, like, I couldn't have dealt with that. But back then, I'd love to be the centre of attention and I'd be like, the one throwing the limo out to everybody, I'll have a stripe, I'll have that, fucking loving it. And that's the way I wanted. But I was dead fun back then as well, and I was dead happy. Although I knew there was a bit of a problem, I enjoyed me nights out and everything. It probably wasn't until I met me now wife that things I felt like were getting on top of me a little bit. To the point where we just got together, and like every other week I was like, I can't be with it anymore. So my head was starting to be a mess. I was starting to, like, the depression was kicking in, the paranoia was kicking in. That point was starting to get a little bit dark, to the point where I was like, right, listen, I need to go away for a bit. And I booked to go to Kenya for 4 months to do volunteer work. Literally, and I was like, I'm going. So I think it was in the August or the July, and I booked to go at the end of August because I had to have some, sorry Dean, vaccinations. They wouldn't let me in. So I had to have like the jabs and stuff before I could go over to Kenya. And I went over there with all goodwill, and all I wanted to do was just go over and just do good, just help out as much as I can. And I remember somebody saying to me, like, well, what's the reason for you being here? And I said something like, if I can just make one kid smile, then I'll be happy. She went, you fucking divvy. And I was like, but that, you know, I just wanted to go over there and just try and do something nice. And I did. And the things that we'd done over there was unbelievable. But I still couldn't escape the ale. I couldn't get hold of lemo.
Where's Kenya, isn't it? Yeah,
I could have, but it'd have been very, very risky. And I was still willing not to take that risk. So I ended up snorting snuff. No tobacco.
Yeah. But you put it under your tongue, don't you? Or in your gums?
That's a different, like, you just like sniff it.
Yeah.
But I seen them doing that and I'm like, right, go on, get me a bag of that. And I just poured it and I snorted. So imagine snorting a line of tobacco. And I was like, oh, fucking hell. So that's when, even when I'm in Kenya, and you're surrounded by poverty, and I mean, like, we looked after a little 10-week-old kid called Baby David, and he died while we were there. Mate, that was fucking brutal. It was horrible to see. There was other people that we were looking after, and they were dying, and I'm still wanting to snort. Like, these are people with nothing. They're living in a mud hut, and I still wanted to snort, and I'd still want to be the centre of attention. We found, like, there's like this little tiny shitter of a hotel where they'd have like a big screen on for the footy, and anybody who wanted to watch had to pay about 2p, whatever it was. And I'd be like, I'll pay for all of these, and I'd buy them all a bevy as well then, because the ale over there was... So I'm still trying to be Billy Big Bollocks in the middle of fucking Kenya. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what was going through my mind then? And it was one of the best times of my life, but I still, like I said, I couldn't escape the drink. I'd still putting away like 10 bottles a night while I was over there, getting up and doing all the work that we needed to do, but it wasn't good. Even the day I came home, within 2 days, I was back snorting straight away.
Because it's around you. And it's
I went and found
just,
it. It was like, I always say you can't escape, you can't run away from drinking drugs, because you will, if you want it, you'll find it. There's no, you're never far away from getting it, no matter what. I know.
In today's society, it's practically impossible, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. My cousin, he went off to France to pick strawberries to get away from it all. Come back, still carries on.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't escape it, I don't think.
Yeah, especially in today's society when it's just everywhere, isn't it? Like, I remember I was bad with gambling for a bit, and it's like you look at the telly, you're watching a footy, there's gambling adverts on at half time. Yeah. You know, it's
every level of society. Like, I remember at uni, like, it was rife at uni, and every level of society, regardless of whether you were nothing or you own fucking loads, cocaine is especially associated with, certainly it's glorified, isn't it, for high society, that sort of thing, those sort of like private members clubs and things like that. So it is literally, whether it's Liverpool, Manchester, no matter what city, you go to any pub, even little villages, you go to any village, you'll find it, no question.
Yeah.
And now you've got the dark web as well, where...
Well, I didn't know about that. I'd have loved that, mate. Because I could have just sat in my house, ordering that instead of phoning me, mate. I'm on the 62, half an hour later. Where I am, still on the 62. It's not that fucking long, mate. That dark web, I'm glad that wasn't about when I was there. Oh,
you know when you were saying like you would sense the attention, like to be Billy Big Bollocks, was that because of the drugs, or was you kind of like that anyway, and that just made you a bit more? I
think as a kid, like, I used to do like Christmas plays and stuff like that. Like, I'd be the only character in the play, and my sister would direct the whole thing. So I'm Scrooge sitting there eating the soup and everything. So I kind of like, I think I enjoyed stuff like that.
At that playful kind of.
I think I won an award when I left school for enjoying school the most. I think it was just because they had nothing else to give me, to be honest. And they just thought, fucking
that's a pretty loose award.
Yeah. Shit. One of my mates got an award for the biggest balls because he had a deep voice, and I get enjoying school the most. Fuming over that still. So I think maybe, I think I was like a little bit like I still am a little bit mad as well. No, like, one of my mates, again, he's a strong man. When we were first speaking and stuff, I was very quiet, and then when he got to know me, he was like, fucking hell, you are a bit mad, aren't you? Like, I'm a bit out there. Like, I normally have my nail varnish on and stuff like that. I love getting my nails done.
Really? Yeah?
I'm fuming. Look at the state of them.
That's good. Do you know what as well? It's like I feel like in the art world especially, a lot of people within that industry, and it crosses into music as well. People are on the fringe of sort of society, aren't they? Look at Amy Winehouse. She was a bit out there, and then you've got Andy Warhol. Different sort of. They always tend to be on that, like.
Yeah, I'm different.
If there's a scale, it's like
I'm off it.
But it's a little bit like that. You don't have to conform, do you, till the 9 till 5, the rat run. You are just cracking your own, so you can be a bit.
I was like a caged animal when I was in an office, like sticking a silverback in a tiny little room, and it just didn't work for me. But while I was there, I still done a good job, and I still had fun. Like, I like to think I got on with most people all the time, but then now I needed to break free, and this is like the best thing I ever done was just become a full-time artist.
After you got back from Kenya then, and then literally it was back into it. Was it every weekend then you were snoring?
Yeah.
Or is it, yeah.
No, it was definitely a weekend thing then. But then it started then, so me and my missus then bought a house together. There's where the financial side of things kicked in a little bit. But we moved in, and I just remember every Friday, she would bevy with me. She'd never touched the drugs or nothing like that. She didn't even know half the time. I'd go and get like 2 crates of ale, and that'd be it for the weekend then, because we didn't have a baby then, so we could just bevy, and it was a safe place for me to drink and stuff, and I could snort on the sly.
In your house?
In the house. That's when, I think when you start staying in to snort, when you start noticing it's becoming a bit of a problem, and then the financial aspect started kicking in then, because we had a mortgage to pay for and a car to pay for. So I went and got my door badge. But I only got the door badge so that I could do event work on arenas and football and stuff like that. Because back then I still didn't really know how well I could fight at the age of like 21. I still didn't know I could fight very well. Turns out I'm all right. So I started doing the event work and it's just not paid enough. And one of my cousins, he was like, get on the doors with us here up in St. Helens. I was like, I love St. Helens, by the way. Proper. I've got a tattoo on my leg saying I love St. Helens.
Have you actually? Yeah.
I'll show you in a minute if you want.
Oh, shit.
And that was in the Echo that a few years back. And so I started working on the doors in St. Helens. And it was boss. But they're massive, aren't they, up there?
Yeah.
They're big lads. They're not like
type thing, innit?
in Liverpool where if you have a scrap with them, they come back with a knife or something for you. Up there, they're just big. They just batter you. They're just like, bruh. So that's when working on the doors, I was around drinking drugs a little bit more then. Like you could...
And you're still, what, 21? So
Yeah, I was only 21 when I started working on the doors then. And I'd done a year in St. Helens, and that was a fucking mad year, that. But I enjoyed it. That's when I started learning about like how much I could fight, because when they were fighting up there, they were just proper fighters. It'd just be a boss scrap all the time. But then, like, you do your bog checks, someone's snorting. Oh yeah, mate, I've one of these. Oh, all right then. So then I started having a line while I'm working then.
Sober?
Yes. Dry snorting was boss back then.
I always think that's when you hear someone talking about the problems. There just seems to be a bit of a darker side to it than when it's like, I don't even need to be pissed anymore.
Yeah, I'll go further into that in a bit, the dry snorting, but back on the doors, I'd get it, and then it got to the point where every shift I'd turn up a little bit early before the lads, because like Rob Broughton was like one of the head doormen on it, and he'd have fucking battered me if he knew that I was snorting on there. He'd have leaded me everywhere. So my cousin, he wouldn't have been pleased with it all on, but I knew there was other people who I could get lemo off while I was on, so I'd turn up early and just get like a few bags of them. But it weren't 20 bags then. I started getting like 3 grams, 4 grams to last me through the night. And I think because of the bar we worked on, I'm sure it was on till about 5 in the morning. It was a really late bar. So I started snorting then, and then it started getting to a point where I'd say to my bird, listen, can you just drop me off at work tonight? And I'll get that taxi home, or one of the lads will drop me off home, just so I can have a little bevy with them when we get there. And it weren't, it's because I was just getting that fucking paranoid off the limo. The thought of driving home was like, oh, it was horrible. So I was in St. Helens for a bit, and then, a funny story here actually. So it turned, the bar I was working on was called Jokers, and then it turned upstairs to a strippers. So obviously my birds weren't going to be too pleased, and I was like, no, I don't. I work on the front door downstairs. I work on the front. The strippers are upstairs. And then this is where I first met my mate Dave, who put me onto the artist Danny O'Connor. He's working upstairs. I'm downstairs. All right, okay. So one night she would drop me off at work, so I could go to my cousin's, have a little bevy before work because it was his birthday, and then I'd go into work. And as our Paul's going up the stairs, he says, I'll come down for a bevy with you tonight. And I went, sound. I'll make sure I'm working downstairs with you instead today. My bird just looked at me and I was like, oh. So she knew then my job was to work upstairs with the lap dancers. I was like, shit, proper gutted over that. And so after that though, my mate Dave, who started working with up there, he got a job in Liverpool. And after that, me and him were just like inseparable for the door work. Like he took me to Liverpool with him. When I come to Liverpool on the doors, it was a different game. It was like, for me, that's when the drugs really ramped up massive for me. I could...
Why? It was more accessible, you mean?
Yeah, and better. Sorry, I'm not like ordering drugs or anything, but you know, I'll be honest, it was good. I enjoyed it still to a point where I'd have it and I'd be like, whoa, I feel fucking great. Half an hour in, the paranoia would be ridiculous.
And none of, like, surely other people, mate, would know.
I could hide snorting really, you know, like the way the jaw goes. Some people's jaw goes, doesn't it, when they snort? I've never ever had anything like that. Like the dry mouth, I was well too on the ball for having any like mouth shit around or anything. Maybe my pupils were a little bit big, but in the early stages, I could snort, and you probably wouldn't have known that I was on it. But then when I started like nailing like an 8th before I went into work.
How much is that?
About 120 quid. It's about 180, I think, or something like that now. So I think, what's an 8th? Is it about 3 or 4 grams? Something like that.
Bloody hell.
So...
And you'd have that, what, before?
Yeah, I'd get before. I'd make sure I'd go into work with enough to get me through the night. At one point, I'd be getting my door wage on a Friday and just going and just handing it straight over. I'd be literally just going in for my wage just to pay off people.
And compared to maybe people around you that are doing it, are you snorting a lot more than them, is it? Or?
Yeah, I'd say. There was a few people around the bend, like...
Because I just think sometimes that's a good thing, innit? You know, you're out with a group of mates, you can go, he can drink all day, and he's a lightweight, he's this, he's that. You're looking around going, maybe I'm doing this a bit, I'm caning this a bit too much, or, you know... Yeah,
there was one of my mates, I'm not going to name him, but, like, we're really, really, like, best mates. And me and him were both in the madness together. Like, we were a pair of jokes. Like, you'd look at the two of us and think, if anybody's going to die from snorting, it's them two. It was like, sometimes I was on the ball and, like, I might not snorted one night or a couple of nights or whatever, and I was a fucking decent doorman. Other nights, I'd just be on the side door, like, just literally stood, just like a cowering shit house, just hoping nothing kicked off, because I couldn't talk to people when they come over to me. I'd just be like, there was just nothing. And, like, my mate would come over, and we just, both of us would be off our barney. He'd go, nod at me like this, and I had a clip-on tie, and I'd go, give him me tie. And we used to hide me lemo in the back of me tie, thinking nobody'd get onto that. And he'd go in, have a line, come back, give me tie, and I'd clip it back on. And we'd just stand there, just silent again. And it was like that all the time.
It's funny, isn't it? If you compare that to when you were 18 and it was a bit of a laugh, like...
Yeah, it wasn't fun. And it was everything. I knew, like... It's weird, like the adrenaline rush and the feeling of, like, I'm about to have it. Like, the people say you have a big shit or a lemo shit, like, you get that excited, you need a shit. Have you ever heard of that? Mm-hmm. But I'd be like that, yes, can't wait for this. Do it, and I'm like, why have I done that? And then I'd just be miserable then. And I'd carry on, and I'd carry on, and I'd carry on.
I remember listening to this comedian Joey Diaz, and he had a really, really bad cocaine problem back. It started from the 90s, and then he stopped in 2010, I think. And his journey was probably the majority of people who were addicted to cocaine, which is it started off partying, that sort of thing, and then it led to him wanting to just be on his own in his room with no one around up until 9 o'clock in the morning with no distractions, probably wanking to try and, like, calm himself down.
I never done that, man.
You know, he was honest like that. He said, like, literally that was my night. Like, it would last into... I just wanted to be on my own, and I wanted to snort on my own.
Yeah, and that was it for me. In the end, I'd start not going into work on the nights. I'd be like, I can't come in tonight. Why? I can't come in. And I just wouldn't go in. Some nights I just literally just didn't turn up. So I'd leave a full, like, team of door lads. I'd let them down because one lad out of your group's not good, is it? Because I was just that much off my barnet and I was getting too paranoid to be able to go in. But then I'd start snorting through the week then to make it a bit easier. I'd still snort while I'm on the doors, but I'd snort through the week in the house to the point where I was still a civil servant then. I could start snorting at like 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and I'd go right the way through till 6 in the morning. Then I'd try and get my head down. I wouldn't. I'd just close my eyes for an hour, get a shower, and then I'd go into work the next day. That was quite repetitive, that. I'd often go into work just right the way through the night.
And your mental health at the moment during that time was...
It started taking quite a dip. Now, I don't think I've talked about this properly before, but you've mentioned mental health, so I'll go on to it then. Even just before, I think it was just before I'd moved in with me missus, it was really getting me down there. Like I said, before I went to Kenya, I knew there was something wrong. My auntie, who's mentally handicapped, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. She's physically, mentally disabled. Yeah. I don't know if you get in trouble for saying handicapped anymore.
No, of course you can't. No.
She didn't really speak much. She used to just swear. And like, she had a life expectancy of about 21. She's now 67, 68. She's a fucking grafter. And so, yeah, she never really spoke very much. And I got to a point where I thought, I can't carry on. And I didn't know it was to do with drink or drugs. I just thought, I'm miserable. I need to fucking die now. Like, I can't do this anymore. And quite often I'd sit up of a night Googling or like trying to research how to kill yourself. And it pops up, doesn't it? To get, like, directs you to all these safe pages and stuff like that.
Really, yeah.
And
what is it to kind of talk you away from it? Yeah,
to talk it out of it. So then I was like, right, I need to die here. Can't carry on like this. And I remember I was looking after my auntie at that point. I wasn't round the bend either. I hadn't been snorting. I was just that fucking miserable, and I didn't see any other escape. And I went into the kitchen. I thought, the only way I knew how you kill yourself is by slit your wrists. That's it. Just go for it and just fucking end your life. And I remember just leaning over the counter at the sink. Again, there's not a thought in the world for like me mum and dad are going to come in and see me here, or she's going to be left on her own to fend for herself until they come home. And she walked into the kitchen, right, honest to God, and she just leaned on the counter next to me. And fucking hell. And she just went to me, "I love you, JC." And I was like, "What?" And she went, "I love you, JC." And I was like, fucking hell. She's never said "I love you" in her life before, and that it's almost as if she knew. Like, people go, "She's fucking soft here, she hasn't got a clue, she's disabled, she doesn't know what she's saying," all that. She saved my life that day.
That's mad.
And it was just like, she's my best mate in the world. Like, I would fight to the ends of the earth for it. We're going through a lot with her at the minute, trying to look after her, but she saved my life that day. And I don't know if I've told my mum and dad about that. If they won't watch this anyway, so don't worry, but if you do, I'm sorry. So yeah, mental health from an early age was fucked.
That's mad that how at that age you were thinking, and there was that kind of intervention there.
Yeah, and honest to God, and I think that's why, like, she is like my absolute world, and not just because of that, because she's an amazing little lady, like, but I genuinely don't know if I'd been here that day, like now, if it weren't for that day when she said that. It's a weird one.
And that resulted just because you thought in your head, "I can't stop snorting here."
I was miserable for no reason. And I think one of the worst parts of depression is not knowing why you're depressed. It's like someone might lose a loved one, or your finances might go out the window, or something big might happen in your life, and that can cause you to be depressed. I had no reason to be depressed. There was no reason whatsoever. Like, I didn't have everything, but do you know, like, there was nothing for me. I couldn't put me.
There wasn't a direct link where you could go, "I'm depressed because of A or B," or
which was more frustrating, and which was, to me, was more like, I can't fucking, if I don't know what it is, then I need to get out of this, and I need to just go. But thankfully, I never. But that didn't stop. Like, my mental health was fucked for years after that.
Mate, it's so sad that people obviously take their life all the time, and to think that the better option, is to slit your wrist, and I see them all the time, signs on train tracks saying if you need to speak, and just things like that. It's just honestly, the mind boggles to think what state of mind to think that is the better option. Yeah,
I used to think it was really selfish, but then you just imagine how fucked up you must be feeling.
Yeah.
Like how distraught and fed up you must be. To think where you're not even thinking, "I don't care who finds me, I don't care the impact that has on them, I don't care who I'm leaving, just I need to just not be here." It's a crazy thought, isn't it?
It's awful.
With when you said about you were kind of constantly going working and then basically just paying the deal, your drug dealer. What point then was the financial impact? Because if you're going out for the night and your missus is like, "Where's the money?" or whatever.
Well, every now and again, I'm working on the door. I took it to one extreme once where I got a good wage, and we had a bit of a scrap that night, so I had a little bit of blood on me anyway. So I just ripped me pants to pieces, ripped them all open, me pockets, and I said, when we had to scrap, somebody fucking swiped all my money on me there, like $1,000, and I was like, it's all gone. Little did I know, she's having to try and look after the households behind the scenes, because I was unapproachable, not like where I was never like aggressive where I'd kick off and I'd hit it or not. I just, when I'm in that place, you just can't get through to me. There's no point in talking to me. So she's having to finance everything. So that's where then loans start getting took, and credit cards start building up through the roof and everything. It got to a point where in the end, like, so my daughter got born then as well. I don't know, I've probably skipped about a million things here. I want to come back to the back on the doors in a bit later on to do with the police as well. So my daughter was born, and this is, again, my sponsor said to me a while back, if I could put a bag of lemo in one hand and your daughter in the other, and say you've only got one option, what would you choose? And I said, my daughter, you do, and he went, but you're always choosing the lemo all the time. And I was like, you're right. So my daughter was born, and I remember the nurse going, "Oh, you've had a long night, you mate. Go on, come back in 24 hours." Straight home, got a quart, 250 quid. Just got on it. Just sat in the house, just snorting. Not even a bevy, just snorted for 24 hours. Then I was like...
On your own?
One mate came round with me. He'd always come in if he knew there was free limo. And he probably will listen to this. And I remember the next day, like, I had to go and pick up my wife and the baby. First day of the baby's life, and I had to go to the hospital and pick her up with about an hour's kip. Fucking eyes were just bloodshot. I was pasty and pale as fuck. I looked like Uncle Fester because I had a skinhead back then and no beard, and I was just white, black eyes, and like that was the day my daughter.
First day of fatherhood.
And I looked like an absolute twat. And I wasn't asked. Like, I didn't think I was doing any wrong or anything, so I still carried on snorting. While after the baby had been born. It wasn't until she was 6 months when I finally quit it. In fact, I still didn't quit it straight away. It got to the point where my wife just turned around and she went, "I am done. You're gone. Get out." And I was like, "Well, whatever." You know what I mean? And she's like, "No, I can't take this anymore." I'd ruined her. I'd literally brought her to the end of the earth. And I'd lost my car at that point. My car was getting taken off me because I'd missed 6 months of payments. I'd missed, I think, 2 or 3 mortgage payments. So the mortgage I made the payments for, so she didn't have to worry about it. But she didn't know, and I'm not paying it then. So then the mortgage arrears had started flying up. She kicked me out and moved back to my mum's. And I kind of like, at that point, I did start trying to get my head around things and start to fix things up a little bit. And I wanted to get help. I didn't really know how to get help. And one of my mates, David, said to me, "Go to like a NA class, a CA class, Cocaine Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous. Go to one of them." I've heard the boss. He was round the bend with me as well. So anyway, I moved back to my mum's, and I'm trying to think of like ways to make things better. So I got signed off work then. I think they signed me off for about 6 months, I think, signed off from work. On the back of that, I had to go and see a psychotherapist. Biggest mistake they made, that. So for me to justify being off, I had to go and see somebody to talk about everything. First session, we're talking. He has me in tears, but he says, "The best thing you ever done was snort cocaine." And I went, "Why?" He said, "Because I don't think you'd be alive today if it weren't for that. I think you're self-medicating, and that's keeping you alive." I just walked out and got straight to the limo. I was like, "Listen, I'll kill myself if I don't get on that." And that was like my thought, was like, he said it, and I started snorting again. My mum and dad went away for 2 weeks on holiday, so I had the house to myself. Literally, blinds were shut, I reckon, for 2 weeks. I had the ironing board out with just a load of limo on it, and I had lads just coming. And at first, they were coming and I'd pay them. In the end, they were coming and just throwing it through the letterbox, and I'd push money back out the letterbox to them. I couldn't fucking open the door. And I'd done that for a while. And then...
and what's your circle of friends like at this point? And a lad's kind of getting on it with you? Are you going out socialising, doing it?
Completely on my own for that 2 weeks. Not one person involved with it at all then.
Fucking hell.
I was literally just me in the house on my own. I think my sister then must have started twigging something's not right here. I must have went out somewhere because she'd come into the house and I had like a 20 box of bifters. So I used to just chain smoke while I was on the bend as well. I'd always need to have like 5 ciggies to smoke at the end to try and put myself asleep. And she found the box and it was just full, and I mean jam-packed full of empty bags to the brim. She broke down then. Her husband and her had to speak together, and then they spoke to me about it. And I was like, please, don't tell your mum and dad, don't tell my mum and dad. I'll get fixed and all that. Put her through fucking hell. Her health went right downhill because she was having to deal with all of that, like I'd put on her. All the while, I'm still snorting again. Just, I'm not doing it anymore.
It's mad, isn't it? How just, I mean, maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't seem like anything massively drastic happened. It was just a continuous, over 10 years or whatever, just getting a little bit, well, it's only that much, and it's only 3 bags, it's only 4 bags, it's only this night, it's only Friday, now it's only this. It just progressively gets worse.
The biggest thing for me with drugs for people, like, I always say, like, if you don't need it, start. Like, my life now without it is fucking boss. I still have bad days, but it's boss. But you might be one of them people who can just, like, one of my mates go out with a 40 bag, have a few lines, go home, put it in his top drawer with the jockeys and leave it till the next weekend. And I'm like, fuck that. Like, if you're that type of person, I mean, drugs, I wouldn't do it, full stop. But I wasn't. I could not stop until nobody'd picked the phone up to me anymore, or I literally was just fucked with. I'd have to pass out.
Jesus.
That's the only way that I'd stop. I believe I've got like a massively addictive personality. Everything I do it to the extreme.
Which is good and bad.
Yeah, like trainees is my new thing. I'm the type of person who has one pair of trainees a year. I'm not asked. Never been a big... I changed my tabs 4 times before I came here today. what? And then I'm like, I'm really sat on the table anyway. But I bought like ridiculous amounts of trainees over the past 6 months. I've just every week buying new pairs. So that's like a thing. I went through a phase with Diet Coke. Every Saturday, I'd get 24 cans of Diet Coke. I'd get up in the morning, I'd just start drinking them all day. And I'd feel sick as fuck by the end of it. But I had to do it. And it was every single Saturday, my addiction for Diet Coke.
Jesus. Mate, if you look at a roadmap of your story, is so... I know we haven't finished yet, but it's so comparable to other, like Lee Butler, where it starts off once a weekend, it then starts getting worse and worse. Yeah. Family members then start to pull away from you.
Yeah.
You're then snorting on your own. Things get harder because family members have disappeared or you've been kicked out the house, so you snort more.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so... that for everyone, you know, you can literally go, yeah, this happened because of X, Y, Z, and it's so like regimented, that road, like path, if you like.
It's mad as well, like, because I don't think anybody who's like addicted to cocaine wants to go out and hurt anybody or cause harm or, you know, suffering for your families or nothing. That's not, like, you never have to. And when you say I'm never doing it again, I genuinely think everybody who says I'm never doing it again, they mean it at that point. But there's that little thing that just flicks in your head and you've got to get it. And you can be so fucking twisted in your brain, like the things that you will do and lie about.
Or give yourself excuses.
Yeah, there's a million excuses to snort, but never one reason to snort. Like, that's what I've always been told, again, by my sponsor. You've got a million excuses, but no reason. There's never a reason to snort. This is another little story, like, in my mind is this, I might get a slap over the head for this one. So when I then moved out of my mum's and I moved into my mate's house then, because my mum was pissing me off, but it weren't my mum was pissing me off. My mum was stopping me from being able to snort. That was what it was. I look back on it now. So I'm living with my mate, snorting plenty. And I mean, he'd be upstairs, I'd be on his couch. We had a load of bags in the kitchen. He'd come down, crack 2 open, I'd have one, he'd have one, he'd go back up and I'd get back on the couch. And we'd do that for 2 days.
Jesus, 2 days.
And then my mum phoned me up then, listen, RM has told me everything that's happened. I just started crying my eyes out. I was relieved that she knew about it then. But then she made a big mistake and she said, listen, don't worry about the financial side of things. Me and your dad will clear all your bills for you. Come home now. Addict in me went, bam, fuck that. I'll come home tomorrow, mum. I can't deal with it right now. As soon as the phone went down, I phoned my mate who the grafter and I said, listen, my ma just said she's going to clear me bill. Bring another 550s down for us. How fucking horrible is that? I mean, that's twisted, that, innit? That's fucking horrible behaviour to do to your mum, who's probably, his world has just fell apart because of what I've done, of no fault of her own. I thought to spat on that then, I know her. And she's reaching out to help me, but my addict in me just went, bingo, I'm that clever. Clear this and just get loads more lemo.
Pure addiction.
And then I went back home the next day. And things started, I cried and I opened up. And my mate David said to me, like I said before, get to CA, Cocaine Anonymous. And I tried it a few times. It just worked for me. It just didn't seem to work. Nothing clicked.
And sorry to interrupt. What sort of people were at Cocaine Anonymous? Everyone from 18-year-olds through to like a huge range of different...
To really old people. And it's like, the first time I went, I pulled up outside and I knocked on the door. Nobody answered and I just fucking pegged it, crying my eyes out, got in the car and I legged it, come home. But I was speaking to Jen and she's like, well, at least you've tried, you know, you had to go. Try it again another day. Dave was like, just go back, mate. Like, you can walk somebody there yourself. But unless they go on their own will, like they have to want to go and do it. Otherwise, if you're doing it for anybody else, I don't think you'll ever get clean and sober. So anyway, I was on and off trying to go to meetings and stuff for a little bit. Finances were still in the shit. I think, I'm not too sure, but Jen had let me back in the house at that point as well. It's because I was trying to get sorted, but I knew my finances were bad. So I got a load of lemo, and I remember 18 grams I had. Thought, this isn't good to say. I thought, I'll sell these because I need to make some fucking money back here. Snorted every single one of them on the door. Just had them all through the night, boom, and it was just literally, so you go from having a key, each line was a gram. So I go, put the gram out, nail it, back on the door.
Oh, you didn't have a heart attack, mate.
Fuck no. I remember being on one of those PlayStation games where they have the straps on you and the fucking thing was through the roof. And
it is mad that. I mean, I don't know much about how much people take, but that sounds like a fucking
that's still not like near the end game where I got to either. Like, there was before that, another one of my mates who was like, he was selling quite a lot at the time. We sat in my living room. He was on one couch, I was on the other, and he got 3 ounces. That's a fair few grand's worth of lemo, and we just put it on a tray, like a food tray, and just passed it back and forth again for the weekend. We hardly spoke. He just babe station on the telly. Daytime babe station as well.
Oh, God.
Just like that. And
has the air of like a crack den, you know, that thing of like in the daytime things close.
It was a clean house though, you know. I'm quite clean, but crack
again,
den or not crack den, it doesn't matter. I was no better than somebody who was sitting in a crack den. I was just fortunate enough to be in a nice, decent house.
Of course,
they're just unfortunate that that's where they had to go. I could have ended up in there. I'm no better than them.
It's just mad how again cocaine has this look of a drug that's a rich man's drug. It's this, it's that, you know, and I don't know, you'll see on films like someone having a fit bed and you're snorting a line of coke off her ass and it's all champagne and everyone round, you know, and it's and then you tell that story and it's like just 2 lads not even speaking to each other all weekend,
just
with fucking babe station on.
Yeah,
it's like people have this vision in their head, I think, of what it might be like, and then that's where it can get you to.
I can't remember any glamorous sides of it, to be honest. Yeah, I never snorted the line off a tit or nothing. None of that ever happened for me.
But you know what I mean, though, with films and stuff like that.
Wolf of Wall Street, that, mate.
Yeah, oh God, yeah.
I have watched, like, in the early days of my recovery, I remember watching certain things and, like, I'd be like, oh, and you'd feel a little bit like, whoa, like something in you.
Even the drug, even on the other side of that, not the user, the actual, the drug dealer, you know, it's very, it's very luring, isn't it? If that's the right word. You know, huge amount of money. I mean, we've got Layer Cake up there, the poster. I mean, what a cracking film that is of Daniel Craig, you know, making million. You know, that sort of. Yeah. It's on both sides. It's very glamorous, isn't it?
I think with that, because I think one of the reasons is it's a film. It's on for an hour and a half. A lot of films that are like that are just glamorizing it, and they're not showing you these little bits, these little snippets of actually that's what it's like, and that this is what it's like when you don't pay. This is what it's like when in the morning the hangover, and you know, no, you're not really privy to that.
Sometimes you don't even get to have the hangover because you get back up and you're cracking straight back on just so you don't have to feel that shitness. But like, so some other things that I used to do was I'd buy like 4 bottles of wine. And I'd just glug a full bottle, just stand there, neck it, as quick, because I knew if I had a stripe, I couldn't really drink very well, because my throat would close over a little bit, and I'd struggle. So I'd nail a bottle, and then I'd just have like pints of wine for the rest of the night, and I'd carry on snorting. Then it got to a point where I hated drinking while I was snorting, so I'd get a crate of lager, I'd tip about 6 or 7 down the sink, shush the cans a little bit. So my bird came in, I'm like, I'm just having a bevy, and I'm not, I'm snorting. Our house used to have like the townhouse, three floors, so I'd make sure there's lemo on each floor. So if she went on one floor, I could get a line. If she's on this floor, I could go up there and I could get another line.
That is planning, that.
And then I used to have it, we had like a loft bedroom with this little door, and there was a shelf on the inside of the door, and I'd have lemo in there, so that I knew the next day, because I'd get into bed and I'd lie there for a bit until she went to work or whatever, and then I'd just open my door and I'd just be back in bed snorting again. Like, a lot of people don't even know that I've done stuff like that. Some of my mates don't know about it.
That's what I mean. I just think when I've seen lads do it and stuff, you'd have a pint and it's like, oh yeah, they're having a pint. Having listened to you now and also Lee Bullet, it makes me think how many lads are out and about, and there's 5 or 10 years out having a pint, watching a match, and a few of them are going the bog having a line, and you think, fair enough, that's what they do. it's how many of them have got little stashes around the house. You
Yeah.
think, fucking hell, you don't know what goes on behind closed doors, do you?
Definitely not. Like, it's mad because in an addiction, you always go on about, like, you've got to hit your rock bottom. Most people would say, listen, your bird's kicked you out, you've lost your car, you nearly lost your house, you're getting to see your daughter twice a week, 3 times a week, because you're not living at home with your bird. What more of a rock bottom do you want? But I still carried on. And it's funny, I've told this story a few times. Like, my rock bottom was that night when I had the 18 grams of lemo, snorted them all, finished the tour shift, went over, and usually you get to have like one drink before you finish. And I was like, just give us a shot of Sambuca there. And the girl, Mel, she looked at me, gave me it, and she just went, you're a fucking disgrace, you. I was like, whoa, that was it. I was back in CA the next day. I went back to Cocaine Anonymous, and I never looked back again. Never looked back on it. And it was like, I don't know if it needed, because she was a boss mate, she's a lovely girl, but nobody's ever been that brutal to me to say, you're a fucking idiot. Or like,
Had she just seen you as the night had went on or whatever and just thought
she'd seen how much I'd snorted. She's not that, she must have, she's seeing it while you're at the clubs anyway, but then nailing like a shot of Sambuca before you go home. And after that I was like, and I always say it, I'll always message it every year on the 23rd of May to say thank you for another year of being clean and sober kind of thing, because if it weren't for you, I don't think it would have happened. I could have been dead by now. And that was my rock bottom. And I went to CA after that, Cocaine Anonymous, and I got on the 12 steps to recovery.
You've not touched it from since then?
No, it'll be 10 years on May 23rd next year. I mean, you will get told you don't look ahead that far, you know, take one day at a time kind of thing. That's it. That's the best way to do anything. I quit smoking the same way. Like, I didn't say I'm quitting smoking forever. It was like, I'm just not smoking today. And then the next day, I'm not going to smoke today. And the next thing you know, it's 5, 6, 7 years I haven't smoked for. And it was the same with drinking drugs. But it wasn't like, it's a bit mad, so I don't even know much about the 12 steps to recovery. It's like the way you go out. It's not meant to be religious or anything. They do use the word God in it, but that's just like something to reference to. But you're meant to have like a higher power. So it's kind of like, you're not the be all and end all. You're not the big ego. You've got to get rid of your ego and admit there's somebody more powerful than you, and that's your higher power. And that's the way you look at it. And it sounds a little bit mad to people. Like every day you wake up and you go, right, I am my life over to my higher power now to get me through today, to keep me clean and sober. And I'll be honest, I don't do that every single day anymore, but in the early stages of my recovery, I would make sure I'd do that every day. And you have to go through the 12 steps, and that 12 step is probably the hardest but the most like mind-blowing time of your life.
Is it hard, you know, trying to, you know, rekindle those relationships with your mum, your dad, your sister, your partner, when you're saying I'm going to this? Are they a little bit like, oh, I've heard this before?
Yeah, because you'd said it every day. It was always, and I meant it every time I said I'm not doing it anymore. I meant it, I genuinely meant it. But nothing that I could do would stop it. Literally nothing could stop it. But going to Cocaine Anonymous was the only thing that saved, like, that was the biggest thing for me. And I don't know if you want to get the 12 steps up, because I can't remember nothing off the top of my head.
Yeah, of course.
Are you going there as well, and the people...
what am I typing in here?
12 steps.
Recovery.
Yeah, it's the programme, yeah. The... Again, are you listening to other people's stories as well and kind of thinking, fucking hell, that is like me? You thinking they're worse than me, or you thinking I'm just as bad as that?
That's it. It's like the whole idea of when you go in there is you share. So it's like you see on the telly. Yeah, no, it's not.
Can I just, while we look at it, can I just quickly nip to Lou? You guys carry on.
Of course, yeah.
That's not it though, anyway.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, is it a case of you're looking at people around you and you're thinking, God, this is... I don't know. I think you can go two ways. You could go in there a bit naive and think, God, these maybe shouldn't be here. These are worse than me. I'm not half as bad as them.
I'll tell you a story on that. Like, later on in my recovery, I've took people to meetings before, and I've took successful people, like high-end business people who are like financially massively wealthy people, and I've took one in, and that person came out and said, I'm not going back in there. And I went, why? They're not as good as me. I'm well too good to be in that room with them. They're way below me, kind of thing. And I was like, you're fucked. You're drinking ridiculous amounts of ale every day. You can't stop. People in there of 10, 15, 20 years sober, clean from heroin, cocaine, and you think you're better than them. And that's the type of thing for an addict. You can't have an ego. If you've got an ego, you're fucked. You've got to drop that off. And like some of the people I've been in there
I think that is a tough thing, mate. Like, I think for me, when I was gambling a lot and I thought, should I go to it? And I thankfully ended up not gambling as much. But you're right, though, mate, that ego thing of like...
It's huge.
That's what stopped me from kind of wanting to ever go and just thinking, I'm fucking...
Yeah, and it's sad, isn't it? It's like, I wonder how many people have died because of their ego.
Oh, yeah.
Mine got smashed to pieces quite early on. My sponsor, he was so like straight talking to you. My ego was knocked right out of me. But the people you're in there like with heroin addicts and stuff. Just
so it's not specific to cocaine,
no,
then? It's...
So AA is very If I went to an AA meeting, I couldn't say I'm an addict. I'd have to say I'm an alcoholic. I couldn't have mentioned me drugs because they're very... I don't know if it's changed, but back then I was told, do not mention cocaine when you're in here.
Okay.
It's just alcohol. These ones for Narcotics Anonymous, again, people who want to take on heroin and stuff. But Cocaine Anonymous is pretty open for alcoholics, drug addicts, all kind. Anybody can go in there. Mm-hmm. So you're sitting there with people who take heroin or took heroin, but they've all changed their lifestyle. Like some of them are so like the most scouse you've ever heard, and you know, like that rugged look of them because of the past that they've had. But they're amazing people as well. Like they're just boss. Just on that, that's not the 12 steps.
Oh, is it not? Sorry.
No.
Yeah, that's the second one down.
This one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is how shit I am at remembering stuff.
Yeah, because Lee Butler spoke about this. This didn't work as much for him. He done something else called...
is it ART or something?
Might when he talks about like the two people on your shoulders, this basically.
Yeah, so this is it. Just keep up so I can just see.
Oh yeah, sorry mate, yeah. This whole bit, yeah.
Yeah, it's the first one you're saying there,
the first part, where you have to admit that you're powerless to it. I mean, that is the... So you go into a meeting, right, and you're sitting there in a circle like you see on the telly, and you'd introduce yourself, and I'm like, I'm John, I'm an addict, I'm an alcoholic. Whoa, I got goosebumps now just off saying it. It's like you finally admitted it to somebody that the position you're in, and everybody's like, hello John, nice to meet you, and all of a sudden you feel like, fuck, I'm not on my own here.
And they're complete strangers as well, aren't they?
Complete strangers. And then what they do then is they open the meeting up, so they'll go through like a few readings or whatever, but then they'll open it up for people to share, and they'll share on their past experiences. But the reason like they'll tell you about what they used to get up to is just so you can like identify with them a little bit. So like, oh yeah, I understand that, I'm like that, I've done that. But then the main part of it's telling them about your recovery and how you've got to where you are now. It's not meant to be like a counselling session where you just go in and get shit off your chest. It can happen quite a lot and you wouldn't knock somebody down for it, but that's what it was about. So I was doing meetings, like, I've been doing meetings for a while, but they never ever... you get like a beginner's key ring, and I had about 15 of them because I just couldn't do it. I couldn't get to 30 days clean and sober. I was trying, but it wasn't just clicking in my head until that day when Mel said to me, you're a fucking disgrace. That's when it clicked for me. So I got onto this, and I'd never done the 12 steps. So I thought, right, everybody always goes on about it, you need to do the 12 steps of recovery. So that's what I got on straight away. There's a part in it where you made a list of persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. So you literally sit down with a piece of paper and write down everybody that you've caused harm to. Doesn't have to be physical, like mental health, like mental harm, like so the stress I put my mum and dad under, my brother, my sister, my wife. You could go back further than that. So I had people in work I was working on like a specialist team in the civil service, and they somehow put up with me in like the last year, I reckon, of me being round the bend, and they stuck by me. So I had to go into a couple of them, and I had to write down like what I'd done to them. There's another one though, going back years before, me and my brother were out, night out. Dorman wouldn't give me coat back. I started banging on the wall and he threw me out, like proper launched me out the club. My brother, the way he just wants to fight the world, and he's just come flying back in at them, trying to fight with the doorman. And next thing, the busies turns up. So the busy started like grappling with me a little bit, but my brother thought I had lemon on me. So he ran over and just volleyed one of the busies off me, so that he got nicked and not me. But there was another busy there anyway. So he got nicked, and they were letting me off with it. But as they were getting back into the car, the busy's arm was out the door, and I just grabbed the door and just smashed his arm in the car door. Went bam! He flew out and he just battered me. Him and his mate just laying into me on the floor. It was my fault. I'd caused that. Went to court over it. My brother got a fine for having Class A on him because it was in his pocket, not mine. And I ended up being in court for 12 months over this, and they were saying, listen, you could go down for 12 months for fighting with the policeman. It's like, I didn't do nothing. I didn't do nothing. Denied everything. 12 in the end, got off with it.
Right.
Got off with it, and I'm like, it's fucking right. Buzzing. Made up. Got off with it. Years later, it comes to this, making a list of people that we've harmed. Now, I don't know what happened to that busy. Did he get in trouble for what happened because of what I done? So he was on my list of making amends. So I'm working on the doors at the time then when I'm starting the 12 steps of recovery. I think it was on the doors for like the last 2 years of me recovery. So the police was on my list of amends. And you know when you're on the door, they have like licensing police and stuff walking around. Usually, back in the day then, they were a little bit against us, like they didn't really look after you. But I called on the licensing police over and I explained, listen, I'm going through the 12 steps of recovery and I done this to one of your police officers. And they were like, you realise what you're saying here? And I was like, you're admitting to a crime? And I was like, yeah. I said, but I want to try and make amends to him. And they were like, well, we're not going to be able to put you face to face with him, so if you want to write a letter, you can. So I wrote a letter to this specific police officer. I won't put his name. I handed it to the licensing police, and they were like, right, we'll make sure we get this to him. And they got the letter to him. All was forgiven. It was literally like, I knew the shit that I could get in for admitting to what I'd done, but I needed to make amends to that man for what
Did he get in contact with you at all, or
no.
You didn't know? You didn't hear anything from him? No,
just from the licensing police, like, yeah, they're happy with that. And but so I got to make amends, and it was, I could have, like, that 12 months it was stressful for me. It must have been stressful for him. You know, I don't know what his family were going through on the back of, or like my dad's got to go to court today to get accused of battering some lads in town or whatever. So I made amends there, and that is like
big weight lifted, I guess, doing that.
But like, I was willing to, if I had to go and do jail time for that, I wouldn't have lasted. I'd have just been a little bitch in jail, me. But I would have done it because I was willing to do anything that I needed to do to make amends for all the harm that I'd caused. And I went and sat down with me wife's mum and dad, and I apologised for what I put their daughter through. I sat down with my mum and dad, my brother and my sister, work colleagues, I sat down with a few of them. That is just like the maddest thing that you can do. Honestly, it's just nuts.
I think even if you don't have if you haven't gone through that, even just everyone in normal life, just a list and just apologise, and you know, to anyone, you know, I suppose you can get a lot of weight off your shoulders, can't it? So
when you're going through the 12 steps, though, you're still working in the civil service, you're still on the doors. I was in the civil service and I was working on the doors then. So my door routine went from it was boss. I loved it because my sponsor, he used to love cakes. So I got to a point where I'd work in the civil service until 6 o'clock. Then I'd go into town on my own and I'd go to a little cake shop and I'd sit there. I'd go to the cake shop, I'd get a load of cakes, and then I'd get a cup of coffee, and then I'd go to the club where I'm working on. I won't mention the club's name. So when I'd go and sit in there, like, they'd let me in at like nice and early. The doors wouldn't open till 8 o'clock, and I'd be sat there with me Alcoholics Anonymous book and me cakes and me coffee, sitting, eating, drinking. And people would be walking in like, whoa, that's fucking Johnny Mac, who's round the bend. Like, I'd just be known as like, I'm round the bend all the time. But now I'm sitting there with a cake and a coffee and reading my book. And that was like my door routine from then on. And life just changed after that for me. It was mad. And then that's when art kicked in, not long after that. So I'm doing well here because I'm not like sniffling up every 2 minutes, but I have like a really bad nose and I've had 2 operations on it.
Because of the cocaine?
Yeah, defo, fucking hell.
Really, yeah?
Yeah. I have sinus problems, like, it's always fucked. So I had to have an operation on my nose, which meant I was going to be housebound for 4 weeks after it. So that was not going to be fun. And my wife's dad just went, yeah, and he brought me canvases from, where was it from? Like Home Bargain and some acrylic paints and stuff like that. And then that's when I started painting. I was just like, I had some of the paintings are shocking. I feel bad. Like someone tried to tag me in one the other week. I was like, remove that tag. Block you. I'm not having anything to do with that. And that's how my painting started then. Like, my recovery and my painting just come into one. And
hand in hand.
Yeah. And
that's mad.
Literally, it's just exploded since then.
It's mad how you can go through. I think it's mad how I say just stop it. There's a lot of work in that, but it's mad how much shit you can go through, and then it's like, right, that's it. And then thanks to the 12 steps and the love for art that you've got, it's managed to. And I love the thing about art. I think I must mention this every podcast, but I love how things can be successful, but you haven't started out trying to get there. Like I talk about the podcast, you know, it's never like we want to get 1 million views, or it's like I just want to talk to people who've had interesting lives, and it grows naturally. Like you know, you never thought I want to be this amazing artist. It's like, well, maybe this might help. I've got 4 weeks at home recovering from the operation. Let's get painting.
Yeah.
You know, there's no big massive end goal. Is that it's just like, right, I enjoy this. Let's have a go.
And that's the way it's. And like some of the things that we've done now is like I say to my babe, I have to pinch myself. She's got the like. We love like the universe, you know, like speak it out and it'll come back to you and all that. My missus is big into it, and she's got me into it as well. And I kind of like to say things, and she's like, you do realise when you say something, it tends to happen a lot. And it is, and it's like, I have to pinch myself because I look back to where I was at that point and where I am now. And I kind of, and some people go on like, oh, why do you always harp on about being an addict? And I'm like, I'll always be an addict. I'll always be an alcoholic for the rest of my life. I can't say I won't ever go back to it because you just never know. But whilst I'm here, I'll do my best to try and let other people see like that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And I don't know if that sounds dead cheesy or whatever, but like you can get out of it. And life can be fun. But life isn't just because you stop drinking and doing drugs, it isn't perfect. Like I still suffer with bouts of depression now. But I don't snort because of it. I don't go, I have to have a line, I'll have to have a bevy now. I deal with things in a different way.
That's what I think, mate. The Lee Butler episode was similar, mate. And I think people need to realise that, because you can see stuff, can't you, on social media, or even you just see people in real life and you think, oh, they've not got any problems, or they don't do this or that. I think when people open up about how dark their addiction and their problem can be, people listen and go, fucking hell, like I fucking, that's where I am now. And look where he is now. You wouldn't think he was once where I feel I am. And it's important that people know those stories. Yeah. And it's you know, it's good that you can laugh about them and go, fucking hell, God, I was fucked then. But people need to know that, like, the levels of darkness you can be in.
And honestly, I haven't even probably touched on some of the dark days that I've went through. We could be here all day, and I wouldn't want it to be like, oh, look how fucking dark my life was or anything. I only want people to hear about that so that they can, you know, understand that
they need to be able to relate.
Going there if they don't be careful. It's so easy to get into that fucking hole. But
that's what I found mad about how easy it is, because you've not gone from, I don't know, like so and so died or I randomly lost my job. It's just a slow progression. Yeah, where suddenly you're like, fucking hell.
For me, that's addiction. That's what an addict will go through. It's like it's a progressive illness kind of thing, and it'll get you and it'll fuck you over. And it breaks my heart to know that these people out there who die from drinking drugs because they didn't get to try and get recovery or whatever, or they just refused it flat out. And sadly, there's people who will just die. One of my mates, he's flying. Like, he stopped as well. He took a few years later, but then he hopped on board and he hasn't snorted or anything. He can go out and have a pint. And I'm like, how the fuck do you do that?
Could you not? No, not a chance.
I say to my missus now, if you ever walk in, you see me with a bottle of wine or a bevy, there's lemo in every room in this house already. Before I sip that ale, I will have lemo. 100%.
So why would it, was it just because the drink normally just used to naturally lead to drugs? That's why you wouldn't.
It's bizarre. Like there's always be lemo before the ale touched my mouth. In the end, in the early stages, it was have a bevy, then I'd need a line. Then it was get your lemo, get your ale.
So would you never trust yourself for having a bevy then?
No, it's not that I wouldn't trust myself, I just wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I just don't see the need to do it. Like, so on the doors, for the last couple of years I was on there, like, there was lemo everywhere, like, you're pulling people out of bogs and they'd have it, and I'm like, fuck that, just flush it or just get off with it or whatever. You could put it on this table now and I wouldn't bother with it. It wouldn't make me go, oh. I'd be like, fuck that. Because it'd be a shit podcast after it. I'd be like that. I wouldn't say anything.
What do you like with then, social situations then where people are having a drink and you kind of like can't really be around it? Or
Yeah, no, I'm all right. So I started off dead slow with it. And again, I'm lucky I've got a couple of good mates who are like just boss with stuff like this. So like a UFC night in the house would be cocaine fueled and drink. So in the early stages of recovery, I said, just fancy coming now and watching it with just some like bottles of Coke and pizzas. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So my mates came round, no one bevies, they just sat up, we all had food.
That's
watched
good, mate.
every fight, and then they went home. I went to bed and was back up at 7 o'clock the next morning. I think that's
so important, mate. I'm so glad you said that, because you need people to be on the wavelength, don't you?
Yeah.
I think because there probably is lads out there who are maybe who are on the Charlie a lot and probably would want to give up, but it's like, if I give up, I've got no one to speak to.
But you know what, you will, like, fact is, you will lose some mates. A lot of my mates drifted because I'm not there throwing a lemo about every day anymore, and that's when you realise who your real mates are. I'm lucky, I reckon, just maybe mostly because of my wife. If it weren't for her, fucking hell, God knows where I'd be. But then I had a select few mates who were really just stuck by me the whole way through it. My family did as well, though. Like, everybody could have just said, fuck off, but they didn't.
During those 10 years, mate, so it's 10 years on the 23rd of May next year.
Yeah.
So during those 10 years, has that like monkey on your shoulder ever creeped in and you've thought one time?
One time. Only one time. And it was in the air, and I know exactly, I don't understand why. So obviously, I'm the type of person who likes stimulants. I couldn't be a weed smoker. Fuck that, sitting there. I like to be like, like I'm always up and active or whatever. And I went to work one morning and I went into Cafe Nero and I was like, do your strongest coffee there, mate. I said, but put 2 extra shots of coffee in. And he was like, well, mate, no one does that, And I was like, fuck, I'm boss with coffee, mate. And in my head, I'm like, I used to snort lemo, didn't I? I'm all right with this. So he gives me this coffee and I went in and I'm drinking it. And I, hand on heart, don't remember the rest of that day. It was just, I was fucked.
Pure caffeine.
I never felt anything like it in my life. But I came home that day. I got off work early. I came home. I don't know if my missus was working in part-time in a restaurant or David Lloyd, somewhere like that at that point. And I remember sitting there thinking, I need to snort. And I'm running around the house trying to find money anywhere. And I managed to get like 60 quid together. And I knew I could get me bifters and some ale with that. But then I needed to be able to get cocaine. And I remember texting a few of my mates and they just text back, fuck off. Go sleep, John. Go away. And I text one of my best mates this big, massive message. And I thought, he's blanked me as well, him. About an hour later, I was just about to leave the house to go and get the ale. I thought, fuck it, I'll just get a bevy anyway. I went to leave the house, my phone beeped, and this massive message come through off my mate. And I was like, I need it. And I went back in. I was like, what was you do? That was the only one time in the whole of my recovery that I nearly flipped the switch. And I don't know what it was. It might not have been the coffee. It might have been that I took my eye off the ball from the recovery path that I should be on.
Yeah.
I might, like, a lot of people in recovery often relapse because of resentments. So, like, if you hold a lot of resentments and hatred towards people, like, you can, I feel like I can see that on people's social media when I see, like, the things they're coming out with, the anger, the fucking hatred in them. I'm thinking, you're not well, you. They might not be an addict, but there's something in them that's not well, and it's not going to lead to a good path or whatever. That's the only time. Yeah. Like, I've been to my sister's wedding. I didn't get up and dance. Flat out refused that. I was like, no, I'm not dancing. And everyone was like, fucking big Dom and I was like, yeah, I'm not dancing. Not happening. But I've been to loads of different events, social events, but I've struggled with them for years. Like, it'd be in a crowd of people, I'd start feeling a little bit like, and then I'd start sweating, or I'd feel like I was sweating. Then I would start sweating, and I mean, like, dripping off my nose and stuff, and I'd feel like people are looking at me, and I'd lose it. Like, I'd be like, I need to get out of here, And then, again, like, the art kind of saved me in that way, because I got involved with Radio City, Cash for Kids, and there's a lady who was the manager at the time, Carol, and she started to get me to come along to her events. So I'd obviously be doing, like, paintings for the auctions and stuff, but she knew how much I struggled with these big crowds, and she'd get me to come along, and I'd be sat at her table with Jen, my wife, and her husband would be sat with me and he'd just keep me talking all night. And then I just gradually started like getting used to being able to go to these events, to the point where that one of them has stood up and given like a little bit of a talk about one of the paintings without crumbling and sweating and everything. So yeah, I've learned a little bit more about myself that way now.
Do you know the one thing that, after we had Lee Butler on, the one thing that really struck me, and obviously we've had yourself on now, and I'm sure we'll probably get similar messages, is the amount of direct messages that we had to our Instagram about people who were going through a similar thing and wanted to maybe get in touch with Lee, or wanted assistance or anything like that. And you know, on Instagram you get message requests.
Yeah.
And there must have been, I can't remember, maybe 10. And if you think that's 10 people and probably a number of others who haven't messaged, who were going through that similar sort of thing, it just blew my mind of the amount of people who were going through something like that, who'd listened to Lee. And obviously I imagine we'll probably get a similar sort of thing with yourself, who are going through it. Just astounded me of how many people are actually...
Do you know what? I get a lot of messages off people, and in the past I have sat and I've talked to people for hours and hours on end, and then I've had it through back in my face. Like, I've had people say, oh, I spoke to me about, I'm not an alcoholic or I'm not an addict. But I'll give me time up for people as much as I possibly can without taking, because my wife and my daughters, they're my priority in life. But I try my best to reach out. So what I started doing was I was putting it into my work a little bit. So the exhibition that I had last year in St. Helens World of Glass, the biggest part of that was about my addiction. So when you walked into the exhibition, you'd see there was a painting of me and my daughter, and there's a bottle on the table, and my daughter's got her hands on my shoulder and I'm holding my head, and the title of that was "It'll Be Okay, Daddy." Heavy one. Then there's another one of me with a massive pile of lemo with a note snorting it. Then there's another one where my hand's reaching out trying to get help. So that was 3 pictures. The next one, the 4th picture, was me in a coffin, dead. So it's about like in addiction, there's 3 places you can go. You've got an asylum, because you just go fucking mental and that's it. A morgue, you're going to die. Or you can get your sobriety and you can be clean and sober. They're the 3 places where addiction, I'd say, leads to. My final painting in that piece was me sitting there with my hand out like this and a robin just sitting on my hand. And it's like, just like, I now get like the best joy. I just get happiness out of like tiny little things. Like, I have a robin that comes to my garden every day and I see it and I'm like, oh, this is a good day, this. Like, the simple thing, like a cake. I'm buzzing with a little cake or a cup of coffee. It's just the simple things in life I'm now happy with. And that was the main part of my exhibition. And there's a few people who just broke down crying when they went in and they seen that, because they were struggling as well. People bought some of the paintings to do with the addiction so that they could remind themselves about where they don't want to go back to and stuff. Oh yeah, that's what I try. So that's what I lost it a bit there. So that's what I try to do with a little bit of my art. I try to pass a message out if I can of like, you know, there's this, but you can get to here. I don't like the word hope. I've never been a fan of like giving people hope. I don't know, it just doesn't fit like with me that, but it's kind of, I just like people to see, you know, you can get help and you can get through it. And you can live a happier life as well.
So yeah, because I know from the start then, like you've said, that, you know, there was never been this big final plan. I'm going to get involved in art and that's it. Have you now kind of got a plan where you want the art to take you?
Yeah, fucking world domination.
Yeah,
really.
I swear to God, like I want to leave again. Like, it might sound daft. Like, I want to leave a legacy for my little girl to be like, fucking, that's my dad. That is this. She'll say that now. I know she's like proud of me. She'll say it all the time. I want to leave something special for her, and I feel like I'm doing it every single day at the minute. We've got so much lined up in the art world. Like, I've got exhibitions next year. I've got another solo exhibition coming out on the 6th of February in St. Helens World of Glass. So they're renaming their gallery, and I've got the full gallery for a solo exhibition. You're both more than welcome to come along.
Definitely 6th of Feb, 2021, yeah.
It's going to be, I think it's like 4 till 7, something like that. And I think I've got wall space for about 30 paintings. I've got another exhibition. This is horrible because I'm not going to tell you the full story now, but another exhibition coming up after that somewhere in the Albert Dock. And it's not the Tate Gallery. Not yet anyway. But this is like another level for me when this one goes ahead. So until I announce it, I've got to... My missus is always like, just shush, don't tell anyone. And then I've obviously got the painting stuff going over to Vegas. But on the back of that, we've just got loads of things planned. And like, I do a lot of work now as well with kids, like kids who autistic kids. So of a Saturday, I go and do painting with them. We have like 6-week art classes. Am I allowed to say the company that I do it for?
Yeah, of course you are, yeah.
So it's Motivate Sport Limited. They're on Instagram. They do a lot of work with like autistic kids. They're incredible what they do. Like I've worked with them with where you go out to the kids' houses every now and again. Like they help get them dressed for school and when they come home from school because the parents need a break. And some of them are non-verbal kids. And oh mate, it's just another. It's heartbreaking what you see them going through, these kids. But now, from working with them, some of these kids are walking around the park with them holding hands and everything. Like when I went, one of the kids would just take all his clothes off and just batter you. And you can laugh about it. It was a bit like, what the fuck? But from when they've worked with him, they've got him to a point now where he keeps his clobber on and you can take him out to the park and he's the happiest little kid ever. So I'm working with them doing art classes now. We've done it last year. We've been doing it this year. COVID has obviously ballsed it up quite a lot. It keeps getting cancelled and stuff. So I'm back in with them this Saturday. And at the end of the 6 weeks, because we can't have a full-on exhibition, what I'm going to do is on my website now, I've got a virtual exhibition that I released in lockdown. So I'm going to do a little virtual exhibition for the kids' work. So that, all right, they can't get to go and see it in a gallery, but we'll get it on a computer and it looks amazing. So, but these kids that I'm working with, like, some of the parents have said, like, they don't want to go out the house. But every Saturday, they're sat at the end of the bed with the shoes on, waiting to come out to the art class. And I'm like, oh my God.
Mate, that's insane.
They are just the talent is on another level as well. It's
just giving them a platform, isn't it? It's amazing what art can do, isn't it?
I'll jump back to, I went to a school in Bolton maybe about 2 years ago. And I was working with, I think, 60 kids. And the school in Bolton, I think it was like the area suffered quite bad with poverty as well. So some of the kids only went to school just to get fed. You'd see them, like the tops and everything would have dirt on them still because they couldn't get the clothes washed. So I'm stood there with all these kids and the teacher said, just give them a little bit of a talk about your history. So I was talking about drinking drugs and I was like, any questions? And the kids were like throwing questions about and everything. One of them asked if I had any weed to sell.
But, in front of everyone. Yeah, mate, he's got balls.
He was just like straight, and he was deadly serious. And anyway, the teacher said, just be careful for this one lad. He's a little bit out there. He's a little bit aggressive. Don't leave cans with him. He might spray someone. He might hit somebody. Just be careful with him. And I was like, all right, sound. Said to them all, has anybody done any spray painting? No one's done spray painting before. So if you've seen them like space scenes that you see when you're in Spain, it's like a planet and stars and stuff. Yeah. And they do them with like a pan lid, things. So I do stuff like that with kids because people look at that and think you can't do that. But I could get a 3 or 4 year old kid to be able to do that and it'd look pretty decent. So I'm doing all this work with the kids. And this one lad, when I was getting everybody to do certain parts of it, he was doing a little bit more. And the teacher went, should I have a word with him? And I was like, no, do you know what? Just let's leave him, let me see what he does. So he wasn't just falling in line and doing what I said, which I don't like that in the art world anyway. I do what you want. No, like, there's no rules in art. Do what you want to do. If somebody says it's shit, it might be for them, but it might not be for anybody else. And this kid's just doing all this stuff with the spray paint. Oh, you should have seen what he done by the end of it. It was boss. It made mine look a fucking show. And the teacher come over at the end, like, and she said, I've never seen him so engaged with anything before. And I was like, there's where his focus needs to go. Yeah. Give him a little platform for art. You know, like, he might struggle with everything else, but for me, artwork, and when you let people have a go at it, it releases something inside them, I think.
I could just open up the world to something else, can't it?
Yeah.
Mate, with the cap as well, what happened with the boss thing?
Fucking are you going to ask this? Let me get some water. I've got to be dead careful here, haven't I?
I know, I thought that. I thought you might have to be a bit careful, but you've got to be boss, be kind. So, an idea you had.
What it was in lockdown, the first lockdown, as soon as it announced, everyone was all like joining together with me. Everyone wanted to do good for each other. So me and my daughter was like, right, let's do an art class online every day, Monday to Friday, 11 till 12. We'll do an art class. What we wanted to focus on was, there was 2 flipboards and flip charts, and I'd be drawing something, she'd be copying me, and all the kids at home would be copying me. So I'd go over it like, I'd tell them to use a pencil, but I'd use a Sharpie so that they can see the lines properly. And I'd use all like little guidelines and stuff just to help them keep the proportion together and make the drawings a bit easier. And then we'd go over it. So you'd have your pencil drawn, and then we'd go over and fine line it all, so your pictures would pop out and all that. At the end of every art class, or the beginning of every art class, my daughter would get me to do a TikTok dance with her, so I'd look like an absolute bell end. But it was just a little bit of fun, and we'd get hopefully the kids at home were actually doing it and not just looking at us like, he looks like a non-study. And then at the end of the class, though, so we never talked about COVID or anything. We didn't want to. We wanted to keep it. So for me, it was kids can escape from, because you're going to hear your parents talking about it. It's on the news, it's there. It was just doom and gloom, wasn't it? And I was like, I want you to come here and enjoy yourself. I think you can escape from everything when you're doing art. I do often when I'm in the studio painting, and I just 5-6 hours are gone, and I'm like, I'll come out, like I haven't thought about anything. Like I was just gone. So at the end of the art class, though, we'd get my little daughter to always say, "Be boss, be kind." That was their little slogan. So it just become a little bit of a thing, and we'd put that at the end of every art class. And then when I'm doing my posts on my social media, I'd always put, "Be boss, be kind." And then it started popping up all over the place. People kept like commenting to me, like using the hashtag and stuff. And I was like, somebody said, "Oh, well, you should do caps with that on, you should get hoodies." And I thought, okay, let's have a little go. But I wanted to do it properly because I knew if I did it, and then somebody come at me for, like somebody tried to rob the slogan, then I'm goosed. So we tried to trademark it, "Be boss, be kind." And you'd have like a gap of 3 months. And at the end of the 3 months, if nobody's objected towards it,
then you get it.
You've got it, and that's mine now. And 2 weeks before the end, this knock on the door gets served with this notice, and he like gives me it, takes a photograph of it, and I was like, "The fuck's in this letter, mate?" Gets in his car and off he goes. And I open it, and it's a letter from Simmons and Simmons, Hugo Boss's solicitors. My ass just fell out. I was like, I am fucked here.
They've got some money behind them as well, haven't they?
I was like, what do I do here? So I sent it to Jen, and she was like, "Nah, that's serious, that." Even her dad, like, he's a clever, he was like, "That's got to be a wind-up, that can't be serious." But it was. So I thought, well, social media, boom, banged it on there. What do people think of this kind of thing? And everybody went mental over it.
So what was a Hugo Boss just saying you can't do it?
So they were saying they don't agree with me trying to trademark "Be Boss, Be Kind" because it was too close to their branding, because the word boss was in it.
It doesn't seem that close to it.
It's fucking not at all.
Mate, another company's been done, Boss Brewing, haven't they?
They won.
They won
theirs in the end.
Against Hugo Boss,
yes. So it was like, I can't remember the legal terminology of what they put in, but it was like a threatened notice of something. It sounded shit scary, and I was like, "Oh, I'm goosed, I'm going to lose my house and everything here." But luckily I hadn't sold anything at that point. I've had some stuff made, but I hadn't sold anything, so they couldn't really get me on that. They could only stop me from selling. So I didn't know where to go with it, and then like the Echo jumped on it, and the Mirror, the Times, the Mail, Lad Bible, everybody just dived on it. Never ever read comments and stuff like that. Fucking hell. Some people give me shit on that, and I was like, I felt like crying into me.
What?
The compo face one was the worst. So the photographer come round, he was like, "Just hold the cap like that." So I'm holding it, and he went, "And it don't smile." So I went, and then that, I got shit for that. Oh, look at his fucking compo face. I was like, "Oh, fucking knew I should have smiled or put my tongue out or something." And then there was a law firm in Liverpool, Astria Legal, and I knew the lady who owns it, and she just commented, "Listen, get in touch with us, we'll give you a free consultation." Like, sound, I'll need that. Got talking with them, and then my nose is running here. The next thing, Hugo Boss the BBC had got in touch with Hugo Boss's team, and they said, right, they couldn't actually get in touch with me directly, some legal thing in data protection in the UK, so that's why the solicitors had to do it with their big harsh letter. So I ended up having a Skype call with me and my wife and Hugo Boss's solicitors from Switzerland, and we had to represent ourselves because they wouldn't leave it until the Monday when our solicitors were going to get involved with us. So they give us like a few little hints and tips on what to do and what not to do. So I had a call with them for about an hour. We had them pissing themselves laughing. They were lovely. They were dead nice on the call. They were sound. And what it was is, it's to do with fonts and stuff like that. There's certain aspects that I'm not allowed for it to look like their branding. But I'm also not too sure now how much detail I can go into that. I don't know whether I've landed myself in it already.
You'd have to, mate.
So basically we had that, and then the solicitors got involved, and it took about another 2 months. They're a big firm. I'm just a little fat kid from Kirby who they're not asked about, but they didn't want me doing it anyway, do you know what I mean? So it was going on and on and on, and then like this contract, an agreement came through to say yes to this, no to this, yes to this, no to this. There's all like different things that we had to agree with. But all I'm legally allowed to say, and I didn't get no money off it, or not. Someone said, "Harry, well, got paid off." I fucking didn't. It's what is it? We come to an amicable solution. So I'm allowed.
That's what I read. Yeah, it would like paid with both parties or something.
Yeah. So I'm allowed to continue and sell merchandise for the hoodies and the clothing, and the art club that we do is RB Boss Behind Art Club. We're allowed to keep all the education side of it in, and then I can sell me beanies, me caps, me hoodies, and the whole thing behind that is like we don't make massive profit in these. You see, if you see our prices, it's like 35 quid for a hoodie where most people charge 60. And the profit's going to our daughter. She's mad into fashion. Like, she wants her own fashion empire. So we've said, every bit of profit we get from that, when you're 18, it is your empire to start with. You can make your money from that. And that's what happened with the Hugo Boss. But if anything, they give us more. You couldn't have bought the publicity that we got. It was priceless. It was mental. Like, Joe Lycett started following me the other week on Instagram.
Because he changed his name to Hugo Boss, didn't he? Yeah, that's how it was.
And he messaged me, and he was like, I'm buzzing for you, mate, that you've got it all sorts and stuff like that. So
he legally changed his name by default, didn't he?
He had to move it back, though, I think. Something happens where I think the depot said to them, like, I can't remember what it was. I think he was going to lose Joe Lycett if he didn't change it back, kind of thing. He would literally. So that's a bit of a...
I'm surprised Boss Nights haven't gone through something like that, because
they might not have trademarked it.
Right.
So if you don't trademark something, it's not it doesn't get brought to their attention. Because I've trademarked it, it comes up on like a system. Boss, right, fuck it, get them, send them letters out to all of them. So if you're not trying to trademark it, they might not be as bothered, but they still can't come after people.
Yeah, it's scary getting a letter from a big
Liverpool Football Club had the thing, didn't they, where they tried to stop a lot of the lads from selling t-shirts and stuff like that, and their thing was about you've copyrighted the Liverbird or something, and it's like, fucking hell, like...
I'd be goosed on that, because I've got about 50 paintings of Liverbirds.
Well, that's the thing, some of the arguments come was like, okay, then, well, I've got a tattoo of a Liverbird, is that fucking... Like,
I think that's just like the American businessman, isn't it? Where they just want to wipe out everything, they don't really care for... But that didn't go down too well. But yeah, the Hugo Boss thing was...
That's a cool little story, that, Hugo Boss coming after
it. Do you know what? It was a pain in the arse. At one point I said to Jen, we need to fuck this off. But then it got to a point where I was like, do you know what? No, okay. Yeah. I was like, we've got a little bit of savings. I'll use every penny of my savings if we have to now. Like, I was getting on my high horse then. I don't think I really want to do that. I was just being stubborn. The ego was coming back there then, isn't it? But it turned out well in the end.
Mate, what's the proudest bit of art that you've done? Or your favourite, let's say?
I don't think I can... Do you know what it seems to be at the minute? Every time I finish a painting, I'm like, oh, that's boss that. And I like the fact that I'm finishing work and I'm liking what I'm doing. Sometimes I'm dead paranoid about my work and I think, that's shit. Or you put it on social media and you get like 10 likes and I'm like, oh, I may as well go and be a plumber now because I'm not good at... Not against plumbers, but I can't do this fucking artwork anymore. I may as well go and get another job. I don't know, like I've done a lot of celebrity stuff which I'm buzzing with, like Paloma Faith and Jess Glynn.
Stephen Graham one was boss.
Yeah, so I had a chat with him as well. He phoned me up after, so it was a mate of his who'd bought him that painting, and as a gift for his little man cave. And the next morning when it arrived, his wife sent me a picture of him with the painting. The painting's nearly bigger than him. You realise how small he is. He's proper tiny. Yeah. And anyway, my phone rang, and I never answer my phone if I don't know the number. So I just went, hello. And he's, his voice instantly, hello, John. And I just went, fuck off. I mean, shit, sorry. And he started laughing. And then we had a good little chat for about 45 minutes, just back and forth about like art, how much he loves art. And I'm buzzing to say as well, because I know he's been on Portrait Artist of the Year to get painted before. And he said to me, he went, hand on heart, he said, I've had a lot of paintings done of me. That's the best one I've ever seen.
Really, yeah.
Yeah,
oh, mate,
and I was like, fucking get in there. I was buzzing with that.
He's big time, isn't mate?
Yeah.
Fucking mates with Leo and everything. He's fucking being
mad,
all.
innit?
Yeah, he's a big actor.
Like, his wife, she follows me on social media now as well, and she's like a big supporter of it. She's proper and lovely. And hopefully I'll be doing an actual commission for them in the near future for something as well. So that was a belter, that. Even Paul Smith, so like comedian Paul Smith, like I'm buzzing because me and him have become like really close mates now. He bought one of my paintings, and I love the fact that you've got people like him who are in a successful position, and he just bought it as well. Like, people think I give him that painting or something, and I never. That's not about that, by the way. I feel a twat for saying that now. I didn't mean me feel guilty.
Yeah, mate, it's fucking spot on. That,
he's bought like 4 paintings off me now, and me and him have become like really good mates as well. And it's just little things like that. Me and my bird said, like, we used to go to bed of a night, we're sitting there watching this ginger lad on YouTube, laughing our heads off. The next thing, I'm doing yoga with him. Yeah. And I see his little bare ass getting out of the shower and that, and it's like, it's just little weird things like that.
It's funny how it turns around.
Yeah, like, I've done a painting of the Vivian the other week, and he got onto it and he loves it, and he might be coming to my exhibition in St. Helens World of Glass as well, because his painting's going to be going up in there. Just, honestly, I have to pinch myself at times when little things like that just keep happening, but I just think it's going to get better and better and bigger. I can't wait just to see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen from the next day to the next, but I just think it's going to be boss though. I'm excited.
It's exciting, man. I'm excited for you, man. I'm excited about this exhibition as well.
Yeah, you better come down for that.
Yeah, 6th of Feb, yeah, of course we will. 100%, mate, we'll be there.
Like, I think we've even discussed, like, I don't think there's going to be another lockdown again now. But regardless, like, she was like, it's a private exhibition. We can carry on.
It's happening,
yeah. Like, if we had to stagger it, like we say, like 20 people every half an hour come in or whatever, then we'll do that. But it's going ahead, because I need people to see the paintings in the flesh. I hate them seeing them just on a computer screen. Zoom. Everybody says, like, everybody who's bought paintings off me, when they get it, they're like, oh my God, you can see the texture and the thickness of the paint and stuff like that. Yeah.
And then what's next? Obviously, you've talked about what's next. So literally just paint away. That's what I do. I get up and I paint.
That's one question, actually. How long would something like that take you?
I always get asked this, so it varies. So I do paintings over a few different stages. So you got your background there. I paint all like a raw. So a lot of people will primer canvas, do like a primer paint that you can put on. I put my canvas, staple it to the wall, and then I paint it grey. I use a spray gun to wash, or I just let the water just do the background for me. Then I might let that dry out, and then I'll do another layer on the background, let that dry out. Then I will do like a block of that with colour, just with a brush. So I'll just brush it all in first, so I get an idea. Because I start doing time-lapse videos, I spend a lot more time on the brushwork, which it's a waste of time for me, but people love to see the paint come together. Yeah. So I'll do that. So you could, like, the background's an hour, and then your brushwork could be a few hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, and then I'll come back in then and I'll do palette knife work on it. That's just as long as, I genuinely don't know, I couldn't put a time on it all, but then I'll leave that to dry, then I'll come back in and I might do another layer on it. The final part of my painting is all my gold lines that I use my palette knife, and I put that all over it, and then it's finished then. Because I use acrylic paints, I don't use oil, because oil takes weeks and weeks to dry. I like to paint fast, so like, just the way I am as a person, I'm like dead, like, rah, and I put that in my paintings. I have to paint dead quick.
And that blue, sorry mate, that blue and white, that's just with a brush then, yeah? That's not with a palette knife?
No, all that's with a palette knife now.
All of it, right?
Everything on that now is a palette knife.
Because that blue and white mixed together looks fucking quality, awesome, doesn't it? Yeah.
So good.
I was dying to. I should have brought a painting in today. I thought about it and I thought, should I or should I not? Just so you can see like how it comes together.
As in like one that's not finished? Like
no, not like a finished one, so you can just see like where the paint's been dragged and stuff, and it's a little bit distorted or whatever. I don't know.
Mate, again, and what's your Instagram as well?
Instagram is Artist John Charles.
Yeah, and the website as well, because
it's www.artistjohncharles.com.
Some of the work, mate, if you're listening and watching, go on there. It's incredible, mate. It really is.
Thank you.
Mate, this has been fucking hell, your story. Jesus Christ, you've been through the woodwork, haven't you? Bloody hell.
It's been mad, but hopefully, I hope somebody out there can pick up on this now and just think, maybe it's my time to reach out and get a little bit of help. I'm happy to help people. I'm happy. What I tend to, I know you're finishing up now, but what I tend to do to people now is I tend to say, I direct them to a place where I would always recommend. It's a place called Sharp on Rodney Street, and they deal with Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, all three. You go there, you can phone them up and speak to them, they'll book for you to go in, and you'll have a little talk with somebody. Or you can just turn up to one of their meetings. Now, I don't know what happened at the minute with meetings because of the COVID shit. Yeah. But you can literally knock, go in, and you will never be judged. Not at all. Nobody will look at you like you're a fucking divvy. You'll get hugged by everybody.
Yeah.
I've become a massive hugger, me, since you go in and everybody just hugs you and you're like, what the fuck is all this? But it's nice. So I would always push people to go towards that way, me. But I'd still happily sit and have a chat with people. I've gone down to people's houses and talked to them or the partners, just to explain to the partner like they're not as bad as what you think. They just need a bit of help.
Yeah. I tell you what, must be so difficult. If obviously it's difficult enough what you went through, but if you're say in the limelight and there's countless people who've had drug and alcohol addictions who are in the limelight, to then not have that added pressure of being judged as well because you're in the limelight, it must just add that another little level to what is already fucking hard enough.
And that's why I think it's important, isn't it, when the likes of like Lee Butler, who's known in the city, yourself, everyone knows your artwork, when people like, I think you guys can come out and say, fucking hell, Lee was telling stories similar to yours where, you and your mate are just sitting there. Lee's telling stories about he's getting out of bed and he's paranoid thinking someone's in the back garden, but it's just a reflection from the kitchen, and he's telling all these stories. And I think for people to realise and go, fucking hell, John and Lee were fucking just as bad as me. And look what they're doing.
The hallucination I didn't even touch on. I remember one time I was on a mad bender and I thought my bird's eye fellow was in the back garden looking through the window in a full busy outfit. And I was like, fucking hell. And I kept legging it upstairs. First thing I'd almost picked my limo up and ran upstairs. And I'd come back down, I'd look, and he was there again. I was thinking, shit. I was terrified. He wasn't there. He wasn't even busy at that point. But that was about 3 days, that.
Yeah,
that was horrible.
But there's you forget, like, because you're maybe far removed from that. That's happening every single day now. Yeah, do you know what I mean? So if people can listen to it and more importantly, like you say, not just focus on the mad stories, but look at what you're doing now.
Yeah,
and where it's taking you around the world, the people you've met, the work you're doing, the joy it's bringing to people.
Like, we got shipped over to Dubai last year. Like, they took us, shipped over in a fucking crate, put us on a plane, like. But the world's ultimate strongman took me, my wife, and my daughter. Everything, flights, accommodation, food, days out, just because of my artwork.
See what I mean?
Incredible, mate.
And
Incredible.
It was like, wow. It's just little things like that. I have to I pinch myself because I am fucking lucky, blessed. But I've worked for it at the same time. It's not just been given to me. It's like I have actually worked for it as well.
Yeah, of course.
But it doesn't have to just be art. It can be, you just have a fucking nice life. Do you know, like, if your car tyre bursts, it's not the end of the world anymore. You get it fixed. But in addiction, it's fucking hell. That's a week gone because you're on a bender because your car tyre burst.
Yeah.
That was stuff like that for me. It would have been, yeah. But it doesn't take away the stresses of life. It's there. Everybody has bad days, no matter what. But it's how you deal with them. Again, then you just deal with them a lot better. I'm still a knobhead, me. my missus will say he's a miserable prick sometimes, or he's a narky gobshite. But I'm a nice narky gobshite now, and I don't go missing for days on end.
Yeah, of course, mate. Yeah.
Mate, can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed this, mate. Honestly,
we'll end up having loads of your artwork here, mate, as it's coming along, mate. You'll be in here every 6 months telling us what your new projects, mate. But, mate,
do you know what's killed me the whole way through? It looks like Ali's having a stripe there. I keep looking at it like, fucking hell.
Mate, honestly, you're an inspiration as well, mate. And thank you so much for that piece of...
you're welcome.
Honestly, it means a lot, yeah. We'll get that up straight away and get it framed.
Thanks.
Thank you, mate.